Zuba, pushing Florian Labigra right over.
Here we go then, Valera, he looks left, he looks right, he's getting to the right hand side, which is the inside going 8 to 10-3.
Here it is. This is the crucial moment in this race. It's looking like it's only going one way. David Dott is going to take the race lead. Heading into the second half of the season, the Hungarian of David Dott has driven a masterclass here with the early pit stop. Not the ideal strategy, but an ideal race winner and an excellent performance.
To save our home, we must travel through the gateway to find new energy.
Miranda Pedro Zuba into the wall.
It's actually Valero. Valero's actually gone up into the barriers, coming up to the cutting.
David Todd making his way back up, has already climbed 7 positions.
Oh, I spoke too soon there. Sandy goes up.
So right now, this is going to be where it's going to get shaken up. David Todd passes them while they are in the pit through the mountain straight now, going 3 wide.
Oh my word, that is probably one of the best shows of the entire season.
So we have 3-way battle going to the most dangerous turn of the mountain. Up the mountain, we have contact right there. These guys going absolutely crazy. It's going to come down to the final corner, Murray's corner. Who is going to have to leave? We may have a drag race to the finish line on our hands, folks. You see David Todd right now going into the pit lane.
Carousel immediately, he gets punted off. That was Saavedra. He's gone up, he's been tapped, and he's into the barriers. Oh, the rejoin. Oh no!
Dean. Oh, Pedro, Dean.
Oh, Chris Lallum does have the inside track for the Swiss left. If he's able to make that pass happen, he might be able to cut away Victorino. He does make that pass, and he makes it clean as they come into the right hand. And this is it. Chris Lallum seizes the opportunity and makes it. And just as the end, the rain comes to put a pin onto the end of the race, and Chris Lallum takes it.
Overlooking the home of the British Grand Prix. That's right, folks. We're back in the UK today, out at Silverstone Raceway. Welcome back, everybody, to Season 5 of the AMX Sim Racing World Championship. Today, we are headed back over to Assetto Corsa Competizione, where things have been absolutely dominant all season long from the one and only Simone Seminara. But before we get into that, I am Kevin, and joining me today, we have Amir. Amir, I expect some great racing today. Like I said, Simone Seminara has been absolutely dominant. What are you hoping that we can see from him today?
Well, probably more the usual because, again, he has been good in every single ACC race that I've been paying attention to him because his team and my team, basically, we're both kind of like partners in a way, so we kind of oversee how we do in ACC. But he's been going leaps and bounds, so I'm looking to see if he's going to be dominant again. But make no mistake, Silverstone as a track combination with the car that we have is definitely going to be fast and flowing, and we'll see some really late braking, especially through sector the final couple of sectors where we're going to see probably some side-by-side action here, Kevin.
I couldn't agree more. So definitely, we'll have to see if Simone Seminara is able to keep the domination up. There's only a couple weeks left of the ACC races going on out here. But nonetheless, make sure everyone, if you are watching out at home, make sure to follow all of our social medias that we have on the screen, as well as out here on Twitch and YouTube every weekend. Before we check in with our drivers in qualifying session, we have a few things to go over real quick. So like I said, we're already about 9 weeks into this thing. I can't believe it where the time has gone already. But with that, we started a few months back. I can't believe, like I said, just a few weeks left in this season. So definitely we'll have to see what these drivers have out here today. I know this track is very familiar from a lot of these guys. We'll see how many of the iRacing guys show up as well. But like I said, we've been here all the way since May 25th this season. We're going through into August 18th with this season's total prize pool of $15,000, as well as next level racing gear. So the format goes as following for our ACC races. We have a 20-minute qualifier followed by a 40-minute race with a 1 mandatory pit stop in the middle of that. So shaking things up a bit out here for ACC. So for all of our drivers out there, driver cams are required. You can get the link via our AMX Discord or over on our website. Payouts are done in $100 balances. So once you hit that $100 threshold each month, expect that money headed your way. Like I mentioned earlier, we are here every single Saturday and Sunday out here this season. So each weekend, make sure to catch up live on Twitch and YouTube. Also, you can head over, if you want to sign up, head over to amxrace.com. We'd love to see you out here on the track, or just to get more info about what's going on this season. So we are here every single Saturday and Sunday, starting at 5:50 p.m. GMT. On days like today, we do have Assetto Corsa Competizione, but on the opposite weeks, each Sunday we brought back AMX 0 starting at 5:50 p.m., followed by AMX 20 at 7 p.m. So make sure that you check the full schedule, get the full calendar, and we'll hopefully see you on all of those. I know AMX 20 has already become a fan favorite, definitely become a favorite of a lot of us out here at the AMX crew as well. So this is how the prize pool goes for our ACC races. First place gets $45, second gets $30, third gets $27, all the way down into 15th place, with the fastest lap getting an extra $4, coming to a total prize pool of $250. So a little bit different out here at Assetto Corsa Competizione than iRacing. These drivers have one shot to get it right to take home that prize. And this is our current AMX 5 top 10 standings. So we had some great races yesterday, kind of shifted the grid a little bit. But right now we have sitting in 10th place, Simone Seminara, which, like I said, been dominant all season long in these ACC races. 9th place, we have Diego Villarreal de Leon. 8th, Dino Filippa. 7th, Ralph Benitez. 6th, Evandro Dantas. 5th, Pedro Dean. 4th, Gaston Prestaculabi. Coming in your top 3, we have in 3rd place Bruno De Carmo with 433 points. 2nd place, Jackson Asenje with 452.5 points. And Gael Valero still holding on to that top spot nearly all season long, currently sitting at 505 points. So we have a few weeks left in the season. We'll have to see how that top 3 holds on, or if Bruno De Carmo's coming for Jackson Asenje. Jackson Asenje trying to get that top spot. We have a few weeks left to see how this thing plays out. And speaking of championship winners, our friends over at Next Level Racing, along with our prize pool that we have every single week, the champs will be taking home some gear from Next Level Racing. That's right, GT Elite Cockpit as well as the ERS 3 seat. So I say this every week, but definitely one of the best from Next Level Racing out there. So our champs are going to be walking away with a nice new rig setup. I think the only thing that we might have to get in the future, we'll have to see what other prizes, but hey, cockpits are nice, but we always know we love all of the gear. So big shout out to Next Level Racing. And before we get back into qualifying, Amir, ACC, we've been doing GT3 cars all season long. So go ahead and give the lovely folks at home a rundown of what we're doing out here today.
Yes, indeed, Kevin. And the fact that we're at Silverstone really does give us a little bit of a slight difference in terms of how the races have been previously. Because, again, it's a mix of fast-flowing corners, but punctuated by really slow sections like this second sector. This is normally the start-finish line for where F1 is, but it's actually the middle portion for the GT3 cars. So, coming around here, it's definitely a driver circuit, and I'm hoping that we're going to get a really competitive race. Opened first in 1948, and officially, or rather unofficially, it held its first race in 1947. It was called the Mutton Grand Prix because a sheep was killed on one of the airport runways that ran when it was still an RAF base. But since then, the circuit has grown pretty much around the parallel roads, or rather the perimeter roads here, and became one of the most respected circuits in world motorsport. So looking forward to see how the 5.8 kilometers is going to be tackled. And tackling the circuit will be none other than the bread and butter of the Assetto Corsa Competizione game, the FIA GT3 class, or in this particular case, the current spec FIA GT3 cars with the Ferrari 296, the latest Porsche 992, Lamborghini Evo 2, you name it, the lot. It's all there. 500 to 600 horsepower, rear-wheel drive, a little over 1.2 to 1.3 tons, and flappy pedal gearboxes for everyone, so they don't have to take their hands off the wheel. As you can see there, another brand new introduction to the GT3 classes, the BMW M4 GT3. Really, we don't have to really say too much about it, apart from it is a venerable class that has been around for more than almost close to 20 years, but it has grown leaps and bounds, and the cars on offer are pretty much top of the line spec, and is pretty much the most aesthetically pleasing cars you'll see on the racetracks today, Kevin.
Definitely. So as we go through that, I think that's, well, you said the bread and butter of ACC, the GT3 cars. So I know last season we had a couple other cars in here, but definitely we heard back from a lot of people, the GT3 being the ones that everyone, it's their go-to. And I think there's definitely been some close racing. I know there's a lot of series out there. So once we introduced this in AMX, we kind of started seeing some of the BMW M2 Cup cars last year. We had a couple other cars. So I know with that as well, a lot of people starting to get into other sims such as Le Mans Ultimate. I know the GTP really getting popular over there, as well as, I mean, iRacing has never been better. So we'll have to see what happens for future seasons. But now back to what we've been seeing all season long, the man of the hour, Simone Seminara, going into ACC. This guy, we seen him last season, came in a little bit late, just missed the championship for points, came in second, and now this season he has been leading the entire season long as far as Assetto Corsa Competizione races go. We've seen him go into iRacing. I know he's working on that, starting to build up his iRating, getting a little bit used to how iRacing feels compared to this. But definitely I see good things coming from this man in the future.
Certainly. And just watching a little bit more about Seminara, it's really, again, just to show how well he does in ACC. Even in the recent SR races, he was right up there at the sharp point, either in the top 10 or just outside of it, but you can know, you bet your $1 his name will appear out of there, and we'll have a competitive race. So looking forward to see how this one will be going. As not sure we're on board with right now because the live timing screen is not the same as the one we have on iRacing, but by the sound of the car, it might be a Ferrari, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, sorry, it's a McLaren, in fact. So the McLaren, it has that kind of distinctive V8 sound.
I was about to say, with the black cars, it seems like a lot of people out here running either the black liveries on the cars, or one thing that you mentioned before, some of these guys that have custom liveries from other races not showing up. But we have to see right now, so we are on board with Lloyd Renier. So out here, we've seen him last season doing absolutely amazing job. It was between Simone Seminara and Lloyd Renier going into the championship. So definitely glad to have him back out here today, Amir.
Absolutely, and this is the one guy that we saw him with another one of the Frenchmen that his teammate really were dominant force at the front before Seminara came in that final few runs where he just missed out by a whisker to take the title away from the both of them. But it's nice to see that Lloyd is back here, and let's see if he could give Seminara a run for his money. You can see Seminara now coming across what is the start finish line for the F1 cars, but this is actually just the second sector in the Gladius Competitions Ferrari.
So definitely we know that there's going to be some competition out here today. We've seen these top two drivers going back and forth last season. I expect nothing less coming out here today. But we'll definitely have to see, as we have a few other people. We definitely have a lot of about half the grid right now. Some of our iRacing veterans coming in here. We've seen Pedro Moura, Gael Valero, Bruno De Carmo. So we have other guys out here that they're still getting a little bit used to how ACC is compared to iRacing. So I think the biggest thing, when it comes down to feel and just comes down to the tire wear, how the tires go, how much grip that you have on these. It's similar in some ways, but different in other. I know, Amir, you definitely have been out on the ACC side of things more than I have been. But for those people that are new, what would you say just the biggest difference to you would be in ACC compared to iRacing as far as how the cars handle?
Probably it's hardware as well, because it's a bit taxing on hardware compared to iRacing, where you can at least play on a lower setting. It would not be so distracting compared to ACC. That's one. Two is preparation, because, for example, if you come from an iRacing background, jumping straight to ACC, it's just the car feels way too different. As you said just now, the feel of the car is just completely much heavier compared to what iRacing has. So it really becomes a matter of trying to adapt to it. And some of the other guys, like we're looking at Gael Valero, he has adapted to ACC quite well, all things considered, but that win is still elusive to him, and he'll probably be hoping to break that duck here in that fantastic Mustang, by the way.
Yeah, looking out there, we only have a couple people out in the Fords today, so we'll have to see. It seems that the McLarens have been pretty dominant out here in ACC, at least as far as AMX goes. I know a lot of these drivers really getting able to get a handle on those. And just from kind of testing out a few vehicles out here in ACC, I know last year I've just messed around a little bit just to try and understand a little bit more of what these drivers have to deal with and go through. Definitely, I'd say the McLaren, it can be extremely fast, but it's one of those things that you have to have absolute control over that machine, or else it will come back to bite you. That rear end really loves to get around. So definitely a fast machine, but you have to be able to handle it. I still haven't been out there in the Ford Mustang GT3. I know, definitely being as an American, I love hearing that large V8 roaring out there, and seeing who else on the timing grid. We only have one lone BMW out there today, so we'll have to see how that goes. Currently now sitting in second, so Lloyd Renier now getting that spot taken away from him, goes down into third place.
Yep, being upstaged there by Roberto Rebecchi, so another Italian there up in front with Seminara. So that would be slight comfort, but knowing full well that Rebecchi will love to take that away from Seminara. He will not take that lying, as he is now prepping himself for another run. You can see this is not his qualifying run. That was completely offline, so maybe it's just a way to get the tires gripped up. It's to just prep him up for the next lap. He's only about a 10th faster than Rebecchi, with Renier a further 3 tenths behind Rebecchi in P3 right now. But let's see, the gaps are quite close actually between the front runners, with about up to Bruno De Carmo being 5 tenths of a second. So we know that he can actually sprint price here in those venerable McLarens because, as you said, it can be quite tricky. But I would say it's the more beginner-friendly car among all the cars here right now, with it's rather neutral handling, but it will step up for you in a heartbeat if you were to hit the bump wrongly, because, you know, being a mid-engine car.
And then we see also from, so I'd say, like you said, we have right now our top 5 drivers, roughly half a second separating our top 5. So we'll have to see. I expect this to be pretty well. Like I said, Silverstone just being such a well-known circuit, a lot of these drivers, whether it's on Assetto Corsa Competizione, iRacing, no matter what sim they're on, or even if they've gotten used to it from playing Gran Turismo over the years, these guys know this track very, very well. So we'll have to see. I know that definitely is going to help them feel a little bit more confident. Now they really just have to get used to the car feel. So I went out there one time last season, and definitely I can say when you're not used to the track, it doesn't matter how good you feel in that car. That does not give you the confidence that you need to be able to compete at the highest level. So definitely we'll have to watch out as we see there Bruno Di Carmo heading back to the pits. We have just about 3 minutes left here, so there's only about maybe one more chance for some of these guys to try and best their last lap, to get up on the podium, get up in great qualifying. So like we said, folks, out here at Assetto Corsa Competizione, we have a regular starting grid. We are not doing the reverse grid out here today like we do in some of our iRacing races.
Certainly, and for Gavlero, that will not be comfort for him because he is right at the back right now and still hasn't set a lap time. So maybe in one of those runs that he tried to go through a few corners, he ran a bit wide. He is pretty much the most susceptible of the lot because you enter it so hard that the car just steps out a bit, understeers, and then if you go wide over the rumble strips, it's gonna invalidate your lap time. So maybe that's what's happened to Valero quite a few times. He's still the driver with no time set on the board. As you can see on the right hand side of the screen, that's what's on offer for the guys who are racing here today. $45 for pole position is not bad going, and certainly for Seminara, that is what he is certainly aiming for.
Absolutely. So we see right here Todd Brown. So one of the other guys that, like I said, we haven't seen as much out here, but he's doing an excellent job in Assetto Corsa Competizione, currently in 3rd place. So we've seen the top 2 we expected to be Simone Seminara and Lloyd Renier, but definitely Rebecca and Brown coming out here today, showing that they have the pace to get up on the podium. So we'll still have to see if one of these guys is going to be able to best Simone Seminara, have the upset out here in Assetto Corsa Competizione. We are just minutes away from finding that out. But right now we have another person that we've seen. We got to see him yesterday, Pedro Moura, doing an amazing job out there in iRacing, now looking to make his mark on the Assetto Corsa Competizione.
Certainly, but at this point it's not the best of starts so far. Mind you, he is probably going to try to wind it up for one last run. 2 banker laps prior to this. This is his ultimate run, the last one of the entire session, because as you can see the clock has struck to the final, close to the final minute here. 3.4 seconds and no! Just as we were bigging him up, he has actually gone off back into the pit lane, and he will start at the back for the race here, Kevin.
There we go. So yeah, without here we have, like I said, just less than a minute for that. Seminar may be just trying to even best his own lap. He's still out here under 2 minutes. So with a lot of these guys, the pace being under 2 minutes, I expect that to be some pretty close battles, especially near the middle of the pack, just based on the timing screen. So these guys getting really, really close. Gael Valero, fortunately, was able to squeeze in his time there as well. So he's currently sitting in 6th place. Not too big of a gap. Once again, still roughly just over half a second between our top 5 and less than 2 seconds our top 7. So I think a big part of this is going to also come into play just the racecraft of these guys, especially the people that have been doing this for years. Although they may be new to Assetto Corsa Competizione, the rules of racing are still the same.
Yep, indeed. Regardless of what sim, the racing is pretty much real, despite the cars being virtual. And the front 2 drivers right now literally are just a hair's width ahead. Rebecca and Seminara, both Italians here, just 1/10 separating between the both of them. It's going to be real interesting to see how these two are going to go through as we now come to the end qualifier. Rebecca just came across the line, no improvement.
And one thing also, So yesterday we had Pedro Mura out here. He's been getting better and better out in our AMX 5 races. And yesterday he had his first win. So I know that he's definitely pumped from that. Still riding high on the energy. Really coming out here. Like I said, it's a little bit different. Still getting a feel. But knowing that he was able to best some of the greatest racers out there in sim racing yesterday definitely has to be a big confident booster going into the rest of this season. So we'll have to see how he fares out here today. But like you said, Amir, definitely we have a few people, the top 3 right now. Do you have any predictions so far of who you think is going to be coming away with it today?
Ooh. If you were to bet your bottom dollar, you'll definitely be going for Seminara. But make no mistake, Rebecca, Todd Brown there, we saw just now, who was in a McLaren, the local driver, he was only about 2 tenths behind. So those are the guys that we'd be picking foot favorites for the podium. But don't discount out Loy Rainier. He might just spring a surprise in the race here, as we can see now the qualifying standings, how fast Seminara was compared to the rest of the field. Only just a 10th this time, so he's not going to be resting as easy as he was in previous races here, Kevin.
Definitely. So there is your Ben Q session winner. So best in qualifying, getting the pole position out here today, Simone Seminara. Coming in second, we have Rebecca. Third, Brown. Fourth, Renier. Fifth, De Carmo. Sixth, Valero. Seventh, Lozano. Eighth, Dantas. Ninth, we have looks like Gael Valero has been switching up a few different cars out here in practice or during qualifying today. So his name's popping up a couple times, but then rounding it down, we do have Pedro Mura in there as well. So we have these guys, like we said, Simone Seminara definitely has the target on him coming in here into today's race. Well, nearly every race, single race all season long. Well, let's see if we'll get to see a replay of last year's battle. Definitely going out there on track today. Loy Renier, Simone Seminara, but like we've seen, there's a couple drivers in between them to shake it up as well. So I expect definitely these top 4 to be having some very, very good battles, but not to discount those guys in the mid pack as well. We're still very close to each other. So no matter what, I already know it's going to be an interesting race coming out here at Silverstone today.
Certainly, Kevin, and again, the flowing nature of the circuit really does help cars that grip the corners better through the fast sections. Then through the slow bits, other cars come to the fray. You'll be thinking mid-engine rear-wheel drive cars like the Ferrari and the McLaren coming good in those sections. But the mid-corner, fast medium corners like Maggis and Beckett's, that will definitely favor cars. Here we are at Maggis and Beckett's right now, like the Mercedes or the BMW or the Ford, where they can mount the curves better than the mid-engine cars. It really does become a great equalizer here as we come into the race.
Definitely so. Although these things don't have grip quite like an F1 car, these guys still know how to push it to the absolute limit of the grip that they do have. But once again, we'll have to see, as now we have our formation lap going, if these guys will get used to. We seen yesterday there was so much chaos, so much carnage going on those first couple of laps. So hopefully these guys are able to keep it pretty clean. We had a fairly large grid yesterday's races, so we'll have to see. Like I said, maybe
green light, show them what you got.
or something actually happens. We'll have to wait and see. But there is the green flag, everybody, and these guys are off. Simone Seminara holding on to that pole position, still in first, able to get a great start off of that now. But now we have 2x2. It looks like that might be Bruno De Carmo and Gael Valera in the back. So we'll have to see exactly what's going on here. Right there, the number 6 McLaren, Bruno De Carmo, able to slot right in front of Gael Valera. So far, so good. We are still clean out here. These guys not pushing it too hard yet. But whoa, right there, a huge cut from the inside.
Yeah, that was a bit of grass cutting there from Evandro Dantas in a white Mustang, whereas Valero was just tripping it a bit ever so slightly, but you can see how far he is, how fast he's pushing the car, moving from the word go, because again, they don't have enough heat in those tires because of the short run up to the line, so they're gonna have to get a bit aggressive in the way they can get the heat into those so that they can have grip for the corners. As we see Todd Brown then, the local driver, trying to impress his virtual home crowd here, up to third already behind Rebecca and Seminara, so at least he's best for the rest of the time being, waiting if Loy Rainier can actually fight back. But good news to report is everyone has cleared the start here, Kevin.
Yeah, that's always one thing that we love to see. Like we said, out here for our ACC races, there is a mandatory pit stop. So definitely it's been characteristic. The guys up front waiting until the last possible minute to do it. Some of these guys battling towards the back of the mid pack, usually trying to go for the undercut. So we'll have to see, as a lot of these drivers are fairly evenly matched, how their strategy is going to be out here today. But I think it's safe to say we're going to see the same, more of the same from Simone Seminara out here. Get far ahead, try to get a huge gap of at least 5, 6, 7 seconds if possible, and then just wait until the last lap to get into the pit. So we'll have to see, but like we said, we have here on board of Roberto Rebecchi as well as Todd Brown not too far behind him. So definitely, like we said, we have a 40-minute race going on here. We've seen time and time before, anything can happen out here at AMX.
Absolutely. And it will definitely come when the pit stops will cycle side through. So who's going to be the one to pull the trigger first, or do an undercut, or rather, because the tires can actually last quite decently well, they want to do an overcut. Whichever strategy works, it really depends on the driver's side. So we can see Todd Brown then nearly getting to the back of Rebecchi. So Rebecchi, as we said just now, that the BMW should be good through the negative packet sections, was not fast there that time around, and has left Brown a bit vulnerable here to Loïc Régnier, who's trying to go around the outside through Stowe. That's actually a brave move. That sets himself up coming through Vale here.
And I love that door-to-door, watching over the helicopter shot as we see these guys looking to go over number. Ooh, looked like maybe a little bit of contact there. So just right into the back of Loïc Régnier. So that was just a little bit dangerous right there. Could have ended up very bad, but luckily these drivers able to get out of there with not too much damage, not too much going on. So definitely we'll have to see what comes. These guys, I expect a lot of side-by-sides, especially these guys out here in the McLarens. Todd Brown, Loïc Régnier, Bruno De Carmo. I expect them to be going back and forth quite a bit out here, at least early on in the race. So big reminder too, also from the last Assetto Corsa Competizione race that we had, the pit stops, we had a few instances out in the pits, a few people having to serve penalties, get their drive-thrus, and when they went to go serve it, still having a few issues in the pits. So hopefully these drivers out here today able to keep it clean through the pits, and we don't have that many penalties, if any penalties at all, going out here. Like I said, so far not even 5 minutes into the race and it is already neck and neck.
Oh. And speaking of neck and neck, you might just see drivers starting to become connected into the strategy, because Todd Brown has pulled the trigger first. Now he's actually getting out of battle. That's very smart, because if he was to continue battling with Régnier De Carmo just now, he would have actually lost so much time. And I'm surprised that a lot of drivers were getting very antsy early doors. So Brown then coming into the pits to do his mandatory stop, get out of the way, and have so much clean air for the rest of the race. So they'll have to keep his delta very, very small here to not lose so much. Otherwise, this strategy will come to naught. So if he comes out of this, we'll have to keep an eye out whether or not he's going to make any inroads to the guys that he was battling in for earlier, the likes of De Carmo and Régnier, as they are still circling around the track here, Kevin.
Absolutely, and here we see Bruno De Carmo, the Delinta Esports driver, out here, the Lone Ranger. So like I said, we've seen him a lot, having a lot of his Delinta teammates out there in iRacing, a lot of those races, but that is not the case out here today. But we do see a lot of the same guys. Like I said, I'm having to wonder, we might have to ask them to see if these guys, if there's a bit of a team-up strategy going on between any of them. The guys that are used to iRacing for all of these years come in here saying, all right, we may not be on the same team, but definitely we want to show it. We want to stick it to these guys, be the underdog out here and come away with the win. But so far, Simone Seminara has been showing why he is one of the best drivers out in Assetto Corsa Competizione. So currently, just over a 3-second gap between Seminara and Rebecchi. Right now, things are starting to heat up. These drivers so far being pretty courteous, other than a couple close calls with some of the McLarens. But like we said, with Brown already taking his pit stop, definitely he has a lot of clean air. He just needs to be able to focus on getting as fast of a lap time as he can. So we'll have to wait and see as another person now going off into the pits.
Rebecchi. Yeah, it's Rebecchi, so he's pulled the trigger as well. It's in response to Todd Brown. Now this is where it gets interesting. We'll get to see whether or not that undercut by Brown may actually come to fruition here, because he had a lap of clean air, whereas Rebecchi, he's been actually slow, because you saw Régnier was actually right up to his chuff coming through the Wellington Straight and up to Brooklyn. So he might just have been struggling with pace after the good start here. So we'll keep an eye on what happens between Brown and Rebecca after this. As we look at Gavalero, he's up to 4th place as courtesy of the 2 drivers in front making a pit stop. But he had Dantas for company at one point as well, so at least he staved off that particular threat for the time being. Sets his sights on the guys in 2nd and 3rd for the time being on the road of Renier and De Carmo.
So here we go. Like I said, interesting choice of vehicles out here today. We've seen Simone Seminara switching it up a few different times, but today being out in the Ferrari, definitely feel like one of those very well balanced cars. Although that and the McLaren are both rear engine vehicles, I feel like the Ferrari doing a great job of balance out here on the track so far, especially when you put it into the hands of such a capable driver. But we'll just have to see, because now Bruno De Carmo, he is no slack either. So we'll see as he has been trying to close the gap between himself and Loïc Renier. Like we've seen, only 2 drivers so far to pit, but we're not even a quarter of the way through the race. We'll have to see now also as well with Rebecca and Todd Brown. See once they start getting out there if Brown's able to catch up and start putting the pressure on the back. Definitely, like you said, Amir, going to make things very interesting once more drivers hit the pits and come out, once who they're going to have to battle out with, or if they're going to have just enough space where they can really just focus on setting down the fastest lap times.
Yeah, but unfortunately for Brown, he hasn't had the best of pit stops. Look at that. What was about 2 to 3 tenths of a second behind Rebecca has become 8 seconds. So he actually lost more time in the pit lane than he could have gained when he was out on track in clear air. So maybe he probably hasn't gotten the strat meta where he just has to come into the pits, put on a liter of fuel and just go out. Give you same set of tires. Though having said that, maybe he was a bit light on fuel to begin with, so that's why he had to top out a bit more, and he lost about at least a net 6 seconds while in the pit lane. But having said that again, he is gaining on Rebecca this time around, just under 8 seconds by the first couple of sector loops.
So one thing like that, like you mentioned with the fuel, so a lot of other races, some of these drivers are a bit more used to, at least as far as AMX goes, some of the fixed setups in here, so pretty much everyone being on the same level with fuel. But out here, definitely, that is one of those things that these drivers trying to leave as little fuel as possible, and sometimes just depending on that, that might be one of the differences as well between iRacing and out here in Assetto Corsa Competizione, is one maybe using a little bit fuel a little bit differently than what you may be used to in the other sims. So like I said, out here for a 40-minute race, typically these drivers, we don't see any of them, maybe just the slightest splash and dash, but the big thing that they're always focusing on is getting in and out of the pits as quickly as possible. So not really any tire changes going on, not really much fuel, unless, like we said, they just didn't have enough from the very beginning. So we'll have to see. As we see now, Mauricio Lozano currently sitting in 6th place, only about a second behind Evandro Dantas. So Dantas, the other Ford GT3 driver out here today, we'll have to see what these guys can do. We've seen them battle it out as well in iRacing before, so definitely going to be some good battles like we mentioned early on. Middle of the pack, and I'm loving the black and pink, the flat black and pink, definitely standing out from the crowd out here today on track.
Yeah, that's the typical colors that Lozano goes for when, especially when he was on iRacing, the Yahoo colors. But a couple of questions have come in. First of all, somebody's asked, what's our favorite cars? Personally, I'm a fan of the IRL Ferrari 296, but in ACC, I actually prefer the 720S Evo because it just handles quite nicely and it really complements how I normally drive, because you don't really have to yank the car out, you just turn in and it's already compliant to you. Whereas the 2H is a bit interesting. They're talking about Brazilian food. In this case, it's pão de queijo, if I pronounce that correctly in Portuguese, to who's this, Porco Prata. So let's see if he comes back to that. So Kevin, what's your favorite car?
Much as a lot of people say, just because I'm one of the few Americans out here in AMX, I think everyone would expect me to say the Mustang GT3, but honestly, my favorite car as far as GT3 cars go, I'd have to say it is the Ferrari 296. Like I said, that one in iRacing and the little that I've used it in Assetto Corsa Competizione, for me, it just feels like one of those cars that you can get in, learn very quick. It feels very, very comfortable for me. Like I said, usually I'm one of those people that I tend to overdrive the car just a little bit. So it's very forgiving in sense of that, where you don't have as much snap oversteer as you might in something like a McLaren 720. So definitely that. I'd say a close second though. I'd say probably would have to be the Mercedes, the AMG GT3. That's probably my close second as far as that goes. So not as popular in Assetto Corsa Competizione, but definitely it's one of those that it just sounds good. It can take a little bit of abuse over those curbs as well. So I'd say those are my top two cars. But right now, we see Evandro Dantas, Mauricio Lozano. Still the battle ensues. That gap is slowly closing. So what was just over a second now about 0.8 seconds. So Dantas slowly getting reeled in by Lozano.
Yeah. Oh, as Lozano goes a bit wide, I remember he cannot get away with it like in iRacing, where there's like a certain amount of time they have to back it off and just put the penalty away. If you were to get a corner cut there, sure, it's +1, but you get to carry on your merry ways. Though if you get a third strike, and then you pass beyond that, you're going to have to get a drive-through penalty. And it depends on pit lane. Spa, for example, that's not one place you want to get a drive-through. It will take forever to get in and out. When this one's Silverstone, it will just lose you a sprint race. So Lozano has to watch that out not to go over there to make nice. But it looks as though it's not affecting his pace one bit or his mental right now. He is setting his sights on Dantas on his front.
So I've seen another thing out here. So speaking of different cars as well, our favorite cars, definitely I'll go even further on that about going our favorite tracks. So I'll start off by saying probably my favorite track just because of the level of difficulty plus the elevation changes. There's so much that you have to be so precise, and that would be out at Mount Panorama in Bathurst. So that, especially when you have mixed with the V8 supercars, just hearing those V8s roaring, going through there, no traction control, no ABS, just raw mechanical grip. Definitely one of my favorite tracks out there. Amir, what would you say is your favorite track out there?
I would say Red Bull Ring, because somehow any race that I do in any sim, I would definitely be up there being competitive. So luckily it's in ACC now. I haven't really given that a try fully yet in a multiplayer race, but definitely a step up in terms of visuals compared to the AC model, because it is updated. It has the MotoGP chicane as they added after that horrendous crash back in 2019, I was thinking, where Yamaha flew in the air and nearly hit Valentino Rossi. No, it was 21. So, oh no, it was 2019 around there. Can't remember the exact time, but you get the idea. It was the chicanes were added, and ACC has added that. But yeah, Red Bull Ring any time of the day. It's just a really nice circuit, despite not being as flowy as it used to be in the Oostenrijk ring. It's still a pretty nice circuit regardless. It's simple, but it really does have a lot of character.
And speaking of future cars, one thing that I'm actually very excited to get racing in real life, as well as getting them in the sims over the next year or so, is, or at least maybe the next couple of years, we'll have to wait and see, the Aston Martin Valkyrie. So not too long ago, I'd say almost a couple months ago, I was out in Las Vegas and got to stop by one of the booths that Aston Martin, they had one of their sponsor partners with a sim setup, but they had all the custom out there, Aston Martin Valkyrie in Assetto Corsa. And that thing did not only sounded good in the sim, it felt good. And like I said, I can't wait for them to get into WEC, get into IMSA potentially out here. So especially that the Valkyrie being designed by, of course, the one and only Adrian Newey, the one of the best vehicles out there. I'd say, in my opinion, Aston Martin making a great comeback these last several years in racing all around. Aston Martin, I feel like they have a very good future ahead of them, and I hope to see more of them into the games, more of them in iRacing as well. We have the GT4, but I'd like to see a bit more GT3 as well.
Yeah, and especially the fact that they do compete, they're going to compete in the GT, so no doubt that we're going to get the sound of that V12 Corsa really scream if they actually make it to IMSA sometime next year. Of course, Harder Racing run that program, not Aston Martin Racing themselves, and no involvement from the Stroll family in this case, but really would love to see how, if we get the Aston Martin, that V12 is going to sound so sweet. As now, back to the race here right now, Lozano's making his way into the pits, and there he's trying to undercut towards Dantas. Let's see if this works compared to what happened to Todd Brown.
Yeah, so we see Lozano getting pretty close there to Caio Valero. I'm pretty sure that he was just not wanting to end up in a battle there, slowing them both down. So I think this is probably the move out here, especially he knows he is also ahead of Pedro Mora, who has not pitted yet. So I expect him to stay at least in the middle of the pack coming out, but we'll have to see where he comes out in front of Rebecca and Todd Brown. We have, like I said, just a few seconds, but now back to Caio Valero, leaving him all alone with tons of open space. So sometimes that can either hurt a driver or help them, just depending on how they deal with it. Sometimes it's a little bit easier to push the car when you have someone right in front of you trying to catch up to them, but sometimes it's a little bit easier for drivers to have fresh air, no pressure at all, just be able to get in the zone and get that rhythm going.
And case in point, like Todd Brown, he was about 8 seconds behind Rebecca after the stops, where Rebecca was a lap after Brown. It looks as though Brown has actually got to the bit before his team. He's actually cut away 2 seconds to Rebecca. So now it's under 6 seconds here, 5.7 seconds. So he's the type of driver that really excels in clean air. So questions will be asked why his stop wasn't really as fast as it should be. Probably again, it's just a not bad strategy goal. It's just that the strategy was in his favor, where he was probably coming for fuel, not tires of course. Otherwise, it would have cost him more than just 5 seconds. It was really unfortunate stop. Maybe he also missed his box. Whatever it is, he is now playing catch up here to Rebecca. As a couple of real world results coming through. Yes, George Russell has been disqualified from the Belgian Grand Prix. That's a shocker. That has gifted the win to Hamilton.
Yeah, and unfortunately like that. So like I said, real life news, F1, unfortunately, the Mercedes, George Russell not meeting weight into the car, getting disqualified last minute after such a great run. But back to the race out here. I was looking at the timing screen. Mauricio Lozano, unfortunately, ending up coming out of the pits behind both Rebecca and Brown. So now he's about 8 seconds behind those guys. We'll have to see, as we are almost halfway through this race, if Lozano's going to be able to start making up that pace. I know Rebecca and Brown, both of them taking their pit stops very early on, having quite a bit of fresh air, clean air right in front of them. So definitely going to be one of those things, getting that pace back in, getting into the rhythm. We'll have to see, though, if Simone Seminara starts coming up on some of these lap drivers. I'd say because, you know, we've seen him time and time again waiting until the final lap to take that pit stop, and I assume that is exactly what he has planned out here. He already has nearly, he about has a 4.5 second gap between himself and Loïc Renier, as well as another 2 second gap between Renier and Bruno De Carmo. So your top three split by about 6.5 seconds currently. We'll have to see if any of them start getting closer. And like we've seen from the middle of the pack, once they start getting close to that battle, knowing they're going to slow down, just hitting the pits, hoping they can get that undercut on their opponent later on in the race.
And that's certainly what the intention of Todd Brown was to do, and get back at Rebecca. But this is though he's leaving all the time on the table out on the track. He's finding it hand over fist. As you can see, what's at stake for the drivers on the right hand side of the screen. $45 seems to be going the way of Simone Seminara. But now, but again, something might happen to pit stop if he was to miss his box, or he gets his heads up display indicator wrong, and that will just throw a spanner into the works afterwards. But for the time being, he's still really up in front, as he has been all season so far. 4.6 seconds in front of Loïc Renier. Nothing to worry about, and he will definitely leave his pit stop quite late. But going back to that strategy, Brown though, finding time here. It's a shame that he lost so much of it when he was doing his pit stop.
So there we go, right there. Just you can see how quick Simone Seminara is. Just looking at the lines that he's taking, he is absolutely using up every inch of the track. He's going off, making sure he can dip a wheel here and there where he can, and that is exactly why now he has been up in the top spot all day long. So he was fastest in qualifying, got pole position, and has been leading the race ever since. So we'll have to see Amir if he's able to pull the hat trick out here. All he has left so far, as long as he doesn't make any mistakes, I'm very confident that he'll hold on to that P1 position. But let's see just as well if he's able to set the fastest lap out here today.
Yep, we'll see that. In fact, he is holding the fastest lap race. You can see the purple indicate to his name, not because it's different from any other driver, compared to the red, because we're watching Rebecca. But Seminara is the fastest driver in the entire race so far with his fastest lap. Still well clear of Loïc Renier, even if it is just bit by bit going ahead. he just has this race under control. So we are on board with Roberto Rebecchi. He's got a driver for company, and that's Pedro Mora, the guy that you mentioned earlier, who just won his first race yesterday in AMX.
So yesterday, speaking of some of these guys out here, I know when we were interviewing Pedro Mora out there, so one of the things that we asked him about what he wanted to see, and he's hoping that they could get some of the Formula One cars out there in iRacing again. I know we've seen a few of them yesterday in the F4 cars. They've been putting on a great show, as well as the GT4. So we've thrown out a few of the slower, lower horsepower cars that these guys have been absolutely just crushing it. I'd say some of the most entertaining races that we've seen out there so far, but definitely we'll have to wait and see what next season holds. All I can say is that we may have a couple things out there, hitting a couple different Easter eggs. We'll have to see. We can't give away any information just yet on what we have next season, but all I can say is we've definitely heard feedback from a lot of people, drivers, fans, crew. We'll have to just wait and see. So that's all I got to say about that so far. But right now, back to the race. Things are starting to heat up just a little bit out here.
Yep, with Rebecchi now under a second behind Mora. As someone was asking, did Max get P4? Yes, as a matter of fact, he did, because of George getting disqualified. So that's another couple of points that he gets to inch away from Norris as he comes up now to turn one here. Does Rebecchi on the inside. Mora sees him. He loses the momentum because he actually tried to go wide there to cut across afterwards and just stall the momentum, but ends up also hurting himself. You can see Mora then fighting the wheel there just to keep the car steady, but gets it back under control. Rebecchi was flashing his lights. He was probably not best pleased by the fact that he got bogged there. Could have actually ended up with a spin if he hit the back of Mora.
So right now, we predicted earlier the battles going on in the middle of the pack, and here we have Rebecchi looking to make his move, going to the inside here. He may just have enough grip. He has the line. Oh, getting a little bit squirrely on that rear end, but still keeping it close, and a little bit of bumping back and forth right there, folks. So now we are going door to door. We have Pedro Mora, Roberto Rebecchi, and here we go, the McLaren able to go, but there, the BMW McLaren back and forth going through those S's. So we'll have to see, as it's still door to door, side by side, as we come into the home stretch. Going a bit wide is Rebecchi, but now he's able to get just in front of Pedro Mora. So an excellent move there now, and now he's going to have to play defense.
Yep, that good old-fashioned switchback, and I know that particular corner coming through Vale is a prime example of, if you get it right by just opening the car up slightly faster than the guy in front of you, you can actually go for the switchback afterwards, and the guy just compromises the line. I've done that a couple of times to other drivers during previous races here in ACC. It just feels so satisfying knowing that you can just get the car hooked up much better if you just take a different line. The guy in front goes very narrow, so that's what Rebecchi has done, and he's absolutely done Mora here for that particular part of the track. And for Mora, it will feel like a sinking feeling because he's not made a stop, whereas the other guys around him have, and he will see that he will, oh look at that, he's struggling so much here, and it's probably nothing to do with the way he sits, because I'm pretty sure that camera angle makes it look like he's sitting way upright. In actuality, that's his most comfortable position, but on track right now the car doesn't look that comfortable at all, and he might just need to come to the pits to just reset here, because Brown's probably is going to get him next.
And I think that too, you know, when we've seen Rebecchi flashing his lights earlier, I think part of that was also just letting him know, hey man, I've already taken my pit stop, as Pedro Mora going off into the grass just a little bit. Like I was saying, you know, these two drivers, like you mentioned, they've already taken their pit stop, so it seems a bit unnecessary fighting there. Like we said, with Pedro Mora still yet to pit, so he is the only driver now towards the back that will have to take his pit. We'll have to see exactly what happens there if that leaves room. Will he be able to come out in front of Mauricio Lozano? I mean, we'll just have to wait and see when the timing comes back up on screen, the gap. So about 9 seconds. So I think, you know, Pedro Mora with this, once he goes into the pits, that may be putting him back to P9. So we'll just have to wait and see on that, folks. Like we said, 15 minutes still left to go in this race. Anything can happen. These drivers, now that they're starting to get a bit more aggressive, starting to feel the pressure a little bit more, they may start making the slightest mistakes, as we've seen already.
Yeah, and again, it's not like in other games like, say, Gran Turismo 7, where the pit lane is rather short. Mora is just going to be sliding all the way to the back here. And again, I did say about the sinking feeling. Those other guys around him have stopped. So Lozano's just going to definitely take him for position anyway. So Mora then After the highs of yesterday, he's gonna have to start this one on a bit of a low note. But let's hope that he is not gonna be discouraged by this particular result. He's gonna pick himself up for the next one, as we're gonna go to a really good car and track combo after this. As a bit of dust has been kicked up here, looks as though Ligier is turning up the wick. He's managed to get the gap under 4 seconds. Seminara may not be resting so easy now.
So there we see, like you said, yep, Ligier now just over 3 seconds behind Seminara. So like we've seen all season, Seminara has usually been sitting very comfortably. We had the first race when we were out, I believe it was in Barcelona, between Simon Seminara and Gael Valero, started showing what he could do out here in that Mustang GT3. But right now we have Bruno De Carmo, Gael Valero. We'll have to see if they start battling it out coming up later on. Like I said, the pit strategies, we know we've seen in the past Bruno De Carmo sometimes not having the quickest of pit stops. Some of these drivers haven't had their pit stops count, whether or not they got in the box all the way, or they just get a bit of a speeding penalty after drive through. So hopefully they're able to keep it clean going into these pit stops. But like I said, with just over 10 minutes remaining in the race, these guys are definitely going to have to start thinking about that. We don't even have half of the drivers have pitted yet. Only 3 out of the 9 drivers so far have hit their mandatory pit stop.
Yep, and for those guys, especially being led by Rebecca, they're only 20 seconds behind Danta, so it gives a bit of hope knowing the fact that the guys in front of them are not stopped yet, and they're catchable. So it gives them a net free couple of positions, and it might just be this guy who's sweating the most here, because Valero really hasn't been setting the times alight that much, though probably because the Ford is outpaced here by the much faster mid-engine Ferraris and McLaren to begin with anyway. Looking as though he might be trying to get close between himself, Rebecca, and Brown, with Brown actually having so close. In fact, he's under 2 seconds now, coming up to the 6th place Italian here. It's quite interesting to see how the different strategies play out. Some drivers have pit early, like Brown, then 1 lap later, like Rebecca, and much later into the race, like Lozano. Looking at guys here who are probably going to pit in the final lap of the entire race, just to see how the singularities will come into play after this.
And one thing to keep in mind as we are on board with our current AMX 5 points leader, Gael Valero. So we've seen yesterday him increasing the gap over Jackson Asenge, but that's really one of the things that we have out here. So out here currently in the standings, we do have all of the AMX 5 races kind of combined. So the way that we have it split last season, we had quite a few different classes compared to how we have things this season. So I have to say right now, with Gael Valero being on the leaderboard, we have things split up: AMX 5, AMX 20, AMX 0, where last season we just had the 2 classes, AMX 1 as well as AMX 10, split between different car classes within those driver categories. So with these things, this is also part of the reason that Gael Valero has been leading the points championship, is he's been showing up out here for every single ACC race that we've had, and he's been doing quite well compared to some of the guys. Well, I would say all of the guys, I give big kudos coming out here from iRacing and still not being too far off of the pace from some of the best ACC drivers. So big ups to those guys. But like I said, Jackson Asenge not being out here in ACC is only going to further that gap in the overall points between him and Gael Valero.
Yeah, you might be asking questions as well, how Valero is going to keep all the next level stuff that he is winning. In fact, that was a question that was raised by the chat earlier on YouTube. He's got so much of it that where does he store him? Well, maybe he has enough space in an attic, he'll probably put it there. But again, shows his level of dedication. Regardless of what car and track combo or even what sim, he will turn up, put a race in, and try to make the best of a situation of it. As we can see, Danta's now coming to the pits. He will definitely be swamped by Rebecca, Brown, and Lozano, who stopped early. Mora may be a bit of a non-factor in this one.
So there we see now. So we have, this looks like this will make it just over half of the drivers ending up going to the pits. So we'll still have to see what the pit strategy is for all of the drivers. I think at this point they might just be waiting for Simon Seminara to make his move, try to pit at the same time, or at least on the same lap that he does. That way they can roughly get an idea of hopefully where they can come out. But definitely once those top 5 drivers come out of the pits, it is going to be interesting what that does to the traffic out here on track.
Yep, and in fact, speaking of how it does in fact impact the traffic on track, Dantas actually probably had a bit of a slow stop there because he wasn't moving after the first 2 to 3 seconds after making the pit stop. It looks as though it's a full service. So Dantas then has not got the best of stops. He should have been just splashing a bit of fuel, taking about 5 seconds to go out. This is a 30-second full service here with fuel and tires. It's no wonder that he's now dropped a few positions here to P8.
So just like that, we'll have to see, like we said, putting him pretty much all the way back to the back of the pack. Just if that pays off at all. If, you know, I'm not really sure what the strategy was here. We've seen a lot of these drivers be able to come out here, keep the same set of tires. So we'll have to just wait and see, is that going to benefit him at all in being able to defend off Pedro Mura? We'll just have to wait and see. Or if he's hopefully trying to at least keep up the times that he wants, maybe try to get close to those faster lap times. But like I said, we'll just have to wait and see. If this were iRacing, definitely by now that tire degradation would probably be a lot worse than it has been out here so far. So definitely the one thing to keep in mind, as well as just the time of day, the track temps, all those things definitely do play a factor out here as well. So we'll have to see, but definitely Simone Seminara being very, very comfortable right now. The gap is still a little bit over 2.5 seconds between him and Loïc Renier. So as long as he can keep it clean, it's looking like he's going to be sitting on that top spot once again on the podium.
Yeah, but he only has about 2.6 seconds to spare as Mora now gets lapped by Seminara. Don't be alarmed there. That is actually not, that is not for position. That is in fact a back marker being lapped here, and it is Mora who has become the unfortunate victim of that one, of a fast charging Seminara. He had to get that move done quickly because again, if he gets stuck behind any of the back markers or he just dilly-dallies a bit in any of these laps, you can bet your bottom dollar that Loïc Renier is going to be right up there in his chart. 2.5 seconds now between first and second, and I'm pretty sure the gap just dropped a bit slightly because he was held back a bit.
So there we see. So Pedro Mura doing, being a good sport out there, doing the right thing, just letting Seminara on by as he knows, okay, this guy's starting to lap me now. I'm going to let him out. I have my own race to race. He has his own race to race at this point with just over 6 minutes left. And here we see Loïc Renier. So we have Loïc Renier now going into the pits. We'll have to see if this strategy pays out for him as he was holding on to that second place position for quite a while. Will he have enough time to get out in front of Rebecca and Brown? We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, but I think they're coming around the second sector as we speak. As you can see, Renier is still going to the pit. Now, this is where the singularity that I talked about just now, how all the strategies will come together towards the end. We're in the final 5.5 minutes of this race now as Renier comes to the pits, and that is pretty much a typical service as you would like in a sprint race. Go in and go out immediately. Now, where is Rebecca, Brown, and Lozano in relation to him? It looks as though Renier may have timed this to perfection here. He stays in a net P3 in front of the guys who have stopped, including, in fact, Galvalero as well.
So just like that, now we see the update on the time screen. So Guy Alvalero did end up passing him, but like we said, Bruno De Carmo, Guy Alvalero, both of them barely passing Loïc Renier coming out of the pit. So once they pit, it looks like Loïc Renier may be taking back that P2. Once again, Simone Seminara trying to get as much space between him and all of the other drivers before he gets that pit stop. But being, you know, just even though it was just a few seconds ahead of Loïc Renier before he went into the pits, I expect that from both of these drivers, both being definitely ACC veterans out here, that it should be very, very close coming out. I think it may very well be coming down to who had the better pit stop. So as long as Simone Seminara gets a very good pit stop, we may see him coming out back in front. So like we said, folks, just over 4 minutes to see what decides this. These guys setting sub 2 minute laps. So just about under 2 minutes, around 2 minutes seems to be the pace. So a couple things, like you said, they're starting to get just a little bit squirrely. So we'll have to see if now he's going to come into the pits after that.
But not only that, but look at the damage to the front of his car. He's actually been in the collision, and you can see the rear wing as well. No wonder Seminara was slow, because his bumper and the front hood has actually come up. No wonder the car was only just under a second behind as he comes to the pits. This is not a normal pit stop here, Kevin. Seminara is in deep, deep trouble. His precious invincible record is on the line here because of potentially a massive accident that will put a damper into it.
Man, so yeah, that too, it didn't catch exactly what happened there, so we might have to see if we have a replay to see what happened to Simone Seminara. But yeah, I can see now what you're saying, that damage seemed to come out of nowhere. Very uncharacteristic from what we've seen all season long, especially even last season now. It looks like Bruno De Carmo is getting ahead of him out here in the pit, so we'll have to see if he's trying to get any of those repairs done now that he's in the pits, just trying to get back, catch up, or he may know, unfortunately, that P1 might just be in the bags right now, folks.
Yep, and Seminara is still in the pits, so something happened to him, and then that may have been a mistake from Seminara because I didn't see anybody near him in terms of back markers. We know he overtook Pedro Mora cleanly out on track. As you can see, there, he's still in the pit lane. You can see the scuff marks when we were on board with him on his rear wing. So what if it is, he took a hit at the front and the rear. As you can see now, the car is completely clean. He's got the damage squared away, but that really puts a huge wrench into the works here for what was a cruising race for Simone Seminara.
Yeah, and just like that, that looks like that may very well be leaving Loïc Renier to be sitting in that top spot. Like we said, I think all of us are just baffled. Everyone out there watching, I've seen the comments come by from Chad as well. Just no one expected this. Everyone thought, you know, it looked like Simone Seminara has been quite untouchable this season. But like we said, anything can happen, and anything absolutely did happen out here. So we'll have to see now. Gael Valero currently leading, but still with only about a 13-second gap between himself and Loïc Renier. Once he hits the pit stops, he will be dropping back a place. So I'm still just at a loss for words trying to figure out exactly, you know, what led to that happening in the first place. So especially damage on the front and on the rear. We've seen him, like you mentioned, passing some of the back markers. I'm not sure if he caught back up to Evandro Dantas as well, and that's where an issue happened. We'll have to wait and get confirmation on that as well.
Yeah, that might be it. Or in fact, we might just get, no, we don't have it. This is actually, oh, there it is. Oh, and would you look at that? He actually hit the wrong bump coming up the slow. That actually is quite a common occurrence at Silverstone because at this particular point, the way the car dips in game, the suspension of the car actually drops below the circuit. So he hit one of those open invisible bumps and sent him straight into the barriers. So that's such an unfortunate accident for Seminara. What was a comfortable lead now is a race win completely up in smoke, leaving Loïc Renier with an easy run to the line as Valero comes to the pits. He's come out in second place. Would you believe it? The whole script flipped on its head in a blink of an eye.
And that's very unfortunate for him right there. But like we said, just like that, definitely that goes to prove the man, the guy out here, definitely is not invincible out here in Assetto Corsa Competizione. Simone Seminara being the first race of the season that he has not won. I think everyone out here, you know that he's just trying to refocus, get back out on track, just do what he can to finish this race. But like I said, unfortunate when you only have a couple laps left to go for something like that to happen. You've been running this race all day long, absolutely perfect, absolutely flawless, coming out here only to be sent into the barrier. But here we go, folks, as the clock runs out. Now we have these guys waiting to finish it out. Loïc Renier currently sitting in that top spot, followed by Bruno De Carmo and Roberto Rebecchi.
Yeah, we didn't know that the Rebecchi and De Carmo fight would be somewhat close here, about 6 seconds towards the end. So Brown, despite being the first to roll the dice to get his pit stop out of the way, it seems as though he has actually gone off the boil a bit. It's back out to 5.3 seconds. You can see on board Valero and Brown, incidentally. Where is he going to go? As across the line comes Renier. He takes the victory here. And a fortuitous victory, I would say, because of the misfortune they have in Seminara. But back to the battle for P4. De Carmo and Rebecchi cross the line now in second and third. It's going to be a drag race to the line here, Kevin.
Absolutely. So we're going to have to see right here. Gael Valero now still trying to chase down Brown. It looks like he still will be ahead. So there we go, folks. Bruno De Carmo second, Roberto Rebecchi third. Oh, I seen a red flag out there in the back too, so letting these guys know. All right. The race is now coming to an end. We still waiting now. Mauricio Lozano coming across the line, and Simone Seminara, after an unfortunate incident, coming in 7th place, as well as Evandro Dantas behind him and Pedro Moura in 9th place behind them as well. So a turn of events for sure. Definitely the unexpected happened out here today at Silverstone.
Yep, and as you said, expect the unexpected. Well, certainly that was not part of the bingo card. How a driver who is so imperious in his form, and especially in the last few AMX ACT races, suddenly a rogue bump on the circuit, part of the Linksys scan that was probably not ironed out properly, ended up undoing all his great effort. So, it may not open up the championship in terms of the fight at the front, but that is a perfect record that has been put to bed here tonight, Kevin.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people, myself included, were hoping to see a battle between Simone Seminara and Loïc Régnier, just like we've seen last season. But unfortunately, those hopes were cut short just by the tiniest of incidences, just the tiniest of wheel drops. But nonetheless, big congratulations out there for your BenQ winner, Loïc Régnier, able to best the rest of the pack, sitting in first. And we have here in second place, Bruno De Carmo, third place, Roberto Rebecchi, fourth, Todd Brown, fifth, Gael Valero, sixth place, Mauricio Lozano, seventh place, unfortunately after that incident, coming in, Simone Seminara, eighth place, Evandro Dantas, and ninth place, Pedro Moura, with Simone Seminara still setting the fastest lap. So, like we said, almost had the hat trick out here today, fastest in qualifying, fastest lap, but the slightest tire dip, the slightest error sent the man into the wall, and unfortunately that ended his race, putting him back into seventh. So, man, definitely heartbreak. Just like we were mentioning earlier, we had in real life with Formula One, George Russell taking home the win only to get disqualified later on. It's been a day of heartbreaks out here in racing, both in real life and in the sim. So, like I said, we'll have to see if the heartbreaks continue later on today, or if it's going to be tears of joy rather than frustration on these drivers' faces. Amir, I mean, like we said, the big thing definitely was that incident, but outside of that, no. So what were some of your highlights of the race?
I think it's the crash for Seminara, definitely, because we did not know that a guy who was so dominant throughout the entire season, one rogue bump in the way that Kunos made the circuit at Stowe was enough to just undo all his hard work. It's a highlight, but it's unfortunate to highlight it because it was purely not even his fault. It's just something that happened when the physics engine just calculated some bump wrongly, and that's it. That was enough to undo it.
Yeah, unfortunately. So we'll have to see. We're going to go in here into the interview room very shortly and kind of see some of the point of views from the drivers, see what they have to say, their thoughts on the race out here today. Like I said, still a big congratulations, Loïc Régnier. We've been missing him this season, and he comes out here and able to walk away with that top spot on the podium. So we're going to head over into the interview room. We'll see what Régnier has to say.
Yep, we'll definitely be getting him on board here to see how his fortuitous race played out. Alright then, so we have now Loïc Régnier in the interview room here, and I think he'll probably consider one of his most fortunate wins because, again, that incident for Seminara was just unprecedented. But bonsoir, Loïc. Welcome to the interview room. Congratulations on your win. First of all, take us through how your race went, because I think you were chasing Seminara, but you were not expecting that prior to the stops, that was to happen.
Yeah, exactly. I just watched the incident, and it's unfortunate for him because I think the job was done from his side, but yeah, really unexpected and really happy from that. Yeah, I think the pace was good, but I missed a little bit the quali, and yeah, really happy to win this one finally.
Indeed, and it's been almost a season off since we last saw you winning a race, but we'll go back a bit a session. what was probably lacking from your time, because you were about almost 4 tenths behind Simone? Was it the car, or was it that you couldn't get a lap together?
I think maybe a lack of practice, and also maybe I used the same setup for the race and for the quali, so it was maybe more race setup to keep the tire, and maybe I missed this a little bit of time in quali, but I just I won't be able to do the same lap he did.
Certainly, and that just proves he's a one-lap whiz. But going back into the race itself, you reckon you would have caught up to Simone before the accident, or the pace was already there? You could have actually just cruised right up to him and probably overtake him.
I think I was catching, but with like less than 10 minutes to go, I think I won't be able to catch him in that time. Maybe with maybe 1 hour race I should be able, but I think the win was to promise to him before his incident. I won't be able to catch him in this time.
Well, whatever it was, it is a win. A win is a win nonetheless. So felicitations, and we'll see you for the next AMX race, Lloyd.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
So that was Lloyd Renier with a fortuitous win, but he will take it either way. And the pace was there in the race. Probably was a good idea as well to focus on the race strategy as opposed to putting it on one lap quali. But then again, those kind of things happen when you least expect it. You gotta have to be on the ball either way. Now, after Lloyd Renier, we're gonna get Roberto Rebecchi on board, and we'll get to hear his side of the story, how that went for him, because that certainly was a tight battle that we were getting towards the end. And here is now. And buongiorno, Roberto, or rather is that night for you as well at this time. Congratulations on the podium here. Take us through what it felt like for your race, because I think it was actually going to be pretty close between yourself and the McLaren behind you.
Yeah, I somehow managed to crash together in quali. Honestly, I wasn't expecting to be that close to Simone, but let's say miscalculated the amount of temperature and tire wear on the rears. The car was completely undrivable, so that's why I had to fight pretty close with the guy in P4. At a certain point I was absolutely certain I was going to end up in P4 or P5, but in the middle of the race I somehow managed to understand how to reduce the amount of oversteering to the corner entry, and then I managed to salvage P3. But I mean, I wouldn't be here if Simone didn't get so unlucky into stall. So
yeah, in fact that bump is still present there even after all these years in ACC, isn't it? It's just that one rogue bump was enough to get him white. But to talk about your strategy as well, because you kind of covered off Brown as well because he's undercut. You reckon that the pace was already there for you in the BMW, or was Brown just faster? Because it looks as though after the stop he was getting much faster.
I mean, I pitted honestly more because I felt like Lois was pressuring me from behind. I don't really enjoy driving when someone is pushing me that hard from behind, so I decided to pit and try and drive my own pace. I have no idea why Brown was so far behind, honestly. Like, I was expecting to come already behind him, but yeah, he had more pace in the middle, from like the first part of the race in the middle. Then I understood how to keep the rear in check, and that's why I managed to open a little bit of a gap. Honestly, there was also like a guy who hadn't pitted, and that slowed me down a lot. Like, I lost 4 seconds trying to pass him because he was fighting really hard, and that's why at a certain point I had the McLaren so close to me.
Yeah, that was actually quite an interesting point, because I think it was it was Dantas, yeah, that was actually fighting you for that position. But regardless of that, congratulations on the podium, and hopefully we can see you in future races.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, grazie mille.
So there we have it, folks. Coming from our top two drivers out here today after an unfortunate incident with Simone Seminara. Now that he nearly had an entire perfect season out here for Assetto Corsa Competizione. But like we said, we have another race coming up in a couple weeks for Assetto Corsa Competizione, as well as our other iRacing events going on. So there's definitely plenty of time for Simone Seminara to have that redemption, as well as we get to hope that we see these other drivers coming out here, especially later today, folks. Make sure not to go anywhere. Coming up in just a few minutes, we have another great race as we're heading back over to Stavlo, Belgium. That's right, we're heading back to Spa-Francorchamps for the next race out here in AMX. Make sure to follow all of our social medias. Check the highlights. If you've missed any of the races, you can get all of our VODs also on YouTube. We're live Twitch, YouTube every single weekend. Like I said, we will be back in just a few minutes. Signing out here, Kevin and Amir. We will see you all very, very soon.
We go racing for heat number 1 here in Austria. Over AMX 20 in towards the nicking outer curve, bumping and banging and into the wall. That is a horrible crash. That's a huge lunge from Gaston Calabi, and he's made contact with, I believe, wow, it's a chaotic moment here. No slipstream in front for either car, and you can just see Peter Zuber pushing Florian Lebigra right over.
Here we go then. Valeri, he looks left, he looks right. He's going to the right hand side, which is the inside going 8 to 10-3.
Here it is. This is the crucial moment in this race. And it's looking like it's only going one way. David Dott is going to take the race lead. Heading into the second half of the season, the Hungarian of David Dott has driven a masterclass here with the early pit stop. Not the ideal strategy, but an ideal race winner and an excellent performance.
To save our home, we must travel through the gateway to find new energy.
Peter Zuber into the wall.
It's actually Valero. Valero's actually gone up into the barriers, coming up to the cutting.
David Todd making his way back up, has already climbed 7 positions.
Oh, I spoke too soon there. Sandy goes up.
So right now, this is going to be where it's going to get shaken up. David Todd passes them while they are in the pit through the mountain straight now, going 3 wide.
Oh my word, that is probably one of the best shows of the entire season.
So we have 3-way battle going to the most dangerous turn of the mountain. Up the mountain, we have contact right there. These guys going absolutely crazy. It's going to come down to the final corner, Murray's corner. Who is going to have to lead? We may have a drag race to the finish line on our hands, folks. You see David Todd right now going into the pit lane.
Carousel immediately, he gets punted off. That was Saavedra. He's gone up, he's been tapped, and he's into the barriers. Oh, the rejoin! Oh no!
Dean. Oh, Pedro, Dean.
Oh, Chris Lalum does have the inside track for the Swiss left. If he's able to make that pass happen, he might be able to cut away Victorino. He does make that pass, and he makes it clean as they come into the right hand. And this is it. Chris Lalum seizes the opportunity and makes it. And just as the end, the rain comes to put a pin onto the end of the race, and Chris Lalum takes it.
Heading across the Europe today. We started out in the UK, now we are back in Stavlo, Belgium. That's right, folks, we are at the beautiful Spa-Francorchamps track out here, home of the Belgium GP that was ran earlier on. So we are back with AMX 5, AMX Sim Racing World Championship. I'm glad to be back here today, Amir. I've already seen a few people out in the practice, and I think it's going to be a good one today.
Yeah, certainly after what happened with the actual F1 race, I'm pretty sure that's going to be a case of the same thing, but in much less powerful cars and not as aero dependent. It might just be more side-by-side, I can guarantee you that, Kevin.
So we're out here in the LMP3 cars today, but before we check in on our drivers, as always, make sure to check out our social medias, follow us on there, the best highlights, replays, as well as updates. And like I said, I've already seen a few guys out here that have made some of those great highlights. But before we get into that, we have a few housekeeping things to go over today. We've been out here, man. I keep saying this, but the time flies. I guess it's true what they say. Time flies when you're having fun. We've been out here since May 25th, and we're going all the way through to August 18th. So we have a few weeks left in this season. This season, we have a prize pool of $15,000 plus next level racing gear. And the AMX 5 races go as following in iRacing. We have our 20-minute qualifier, followed by that top 15 reverse grid, going into heat number 1 of 20 minutes, followed by a second top 15 reverse grid into that final heat number 2 of, once again, 20 minutes. So definitely a bit quicker races out here in iRacing compared to what we've seen earlier, but nonetheless, the action is still great. Driver cams are required. You can get the link on our AMX Discord or over at AMX Race on our website. Balances are paid out in balances over $100 every single month. So you hit that $100 threshold, expect to see that money hit in your account. We are here every single Saturday and Sunday this season. And like I say, you can head over to amxrace.com to sign up at any time or get the full schedule. We love having people out here on track. Like I mentioned, Saturdays and Sundays, we start things off at 5:50 p.m., followed by a second race at 7:20 p.m. Every other week, we brought back AMX 0 this season, starting at 5:50 p.m. on every other Sunday, followed by AMX 20 at 7 p.m. So like I said, if you're not too sure and you just kind of want to get in here, AMX 0 is a great place to come and hang out with us, get out on track as well. The prize pool goes as following for our AMX 5 races out here. We do have first place getting $15, second place getting $10, third $9, and the points go down all the way to 15th place, with heat number 1 and heat number 2 getting an additional $2 for setting the fastest lap, coming to a prize pool per race of $250. So if you want to get out here, there is a minimum road I rating of 2,000 for these AMX 5 races. And here are our current standings for the top 10 for AMX 5. We've seen starting it down in 10th place, Simone Seminara, who had an unfortunate incident earlier on. He had nearly a perfect season so far as the Assetto Corsa Competizione goes. Sitting in 9th place, Diego Villarreal. 8th place, Dino Filippo. 7th, Ralph Benitez. 6th place, Avandro Dantas. 5th, Pedro Dean. 4th place, we have Gaston Kulavi. 3rd place, Jackson Asenge at 452.5 points. 2nd place, Bruno De Carmo at 463, and Gael Valero still holding on to that top spot, inching it out, going on up to 526 points. So the last race, that was enough to set Bruno De Carmo up over Jackson Asenge. So we'll have to see. The battle now will go on between the two Brazilian drivers, between 2nd and 3rd. But nonetheless, we'll have to wait. We have a few weeks left to see who holds on to that top spot. And who's, speaking of that top spot, our friends over at Next Level Racing will be giving the championship winners a GT Elite as well as ERS 3 seats. So great cockpit to go out there. Someone made the joke earlier about our current champ winning last season with Gael Valero. What is he doing so far? Well, folks, we still have a few weeks left to see if he's going to win another one out here. But before we get into our qualifying session, we're going to head it over, like we said, back out at Stavlo. Amir, definitely one of the most famous tracks out there.
Yep, certainly, Kevin. An iconic racetrack. even though in this particular iteration, it isn't really that old, isn't it? Because it was only around 1983 that we only got this configuration of Spa-Francorchamps, but nonetheless, it was open with much open arms and much safer compared to the configuration that we see here, first open 1921, where Eau Rouge and Raidillon is, the circuit actually went straight into a small valley before coming back around, and then up through Lake Combe, we actually went into the town of Stavelot itself, where the circuit is based, and the old circuit was around 14 kilometers long. Now it's just half of that, 7 kilometers, just a whisker above 7 kilometers. So a great track, but equally great is the car that we're going to be racing with to pair up with the track, and it's none other than an LMP3 car courtesy of Ligier. The JS P3, or rather the JS P320, is a car that's been around since, of course, the year 2020, says so in the model year. 460 horsepower, rear-wheel drive, just under a ton, 950 kilos, sequential gearbox as well with flappy pedals, but crucially, as we did allude to earlier, not as aero-dependent compared to its much more powerful Ligier LMP2 car, and certainly not as dependent as well compared to the LMP1 cars in iRacing. It's a good beginner's car, and it races quite well, so I'm really looking forward to see if we can get the same side-by-side action we get in lower Formula cars like in Formula 4 or the Super Formula Light. So just really can't wait to see how this goes, Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely. So like you mentioned, the LMP3 cars, one of those that are kind of a bit more of an entry, similar to the GT4 cars. Let's say those ones are definitely out there in some of the multi-class races. I know a lot of people are used to, we say, the bread and butter of the GT3. I'd say LMP2 cars kind of a bit up there, but these ones just a little bit less power, a little bit less aero dependent, like you mentioned, as well as some of these drivers too going to have to used to sitting back on that right side of the car. So a lot of vehicles out here in iRacing used to sitting on the left side for the driver's seat. Now we're switching it back up to the right side. So definitely going to see a lot of these guys that run this car during the regular iRacing season. It's no stranger to them, but it may be a little bit different. I know myself, living in the US, whenever I hop into a vehicle that's right-hand drive, I have to really get used to those lines again, really get used to, all right, how wide is this car? And I'm really able to use up all of the track. So we should see if that plays in out here for some of our drivers today.
Oh, certainly. And the fact that it has that V8 motor courtesy of Nissan, or it was tuned as a Gibson engine, really does give it its authentic sound, isn't it? You can hear from it from the outside and the inside, a real guttural V8 sound. As we're now well into qualifying here, 8.5 minutes in. That was Perez Zuba, who was the winner of one of the races last time out in AMX 20 at the Hungaroring in those wet conditions. It was incidentally in a much faster prototype, the GT2s, of course. He was really flying there in the wet. Let's see how he does in a less powerful LMP car, but still, nonetheless, quite a fun piece of kit.
And talking about that last time, so the rain definitely started causing a bit of drama out in the AMX 20 races. Out here, it is partly cloudy, so I mean, pretty clear skies out here. Not looking like that is going to be an issue, at least not so far at the beginning of this race. So we'll have to wait and see. It's roughly 32 degrees out there, so it is definitely a bit warm out on the track today. The track itself coming in at just under 50 degrees. So we'll have to see these guys, like I said, these ones with almost 500 horsepower in these cars. Definitely we'll have to see what they can do if they start pushing it a little bit too much, if that tire degradation will start coming in at the very last, those last couple of laps. But these guys out here, I want to give a highlight to Aaron Vasquez, who we haven't seen quite as much this year. I know he's been doing a lot of other professional series as well. So we'll have to see, as well as Gustavo Ariel, we got to see yesterday, had a pretty good comeback with there, some great battling between him and Ayrton Royman. But one of the big things, back to Aaron Vasquez, last time we seen him, he was out in the Drago racing vehicle. So he has since left Drago, is now part of the Apex racing team. So we'll have to definitely see out here, seeing one of those other guys that we've seen on Apex Racing, Gael Valero, now that those two are teammates, how the dynamics will change out on track today.
Yeah, I was about to actually bring that up, but thanks for bringing up the info, because there was several broadcasts ago, I think someone did mention about Aaron Vasquez moving teams, and well, when lo and behold, we can see it now in our live timing screen. It says APF Racing, so 2 different nationalities part of the same team, and it'll be a bit awkward given the fact that what happened in the recent Euros that Spain beat up France for that one. But football jokes aside, that is actually quite a potent lineup, and I can't wait to see how they will go about their business, especially how 2 fast drivers can learn off each other.
We'll have to see. Aaron Vasquez, of course, being one of last season's champs. We'll have to see what he can do out here today. We know that he is definitely one of the fastest drivers, especially we have a lot of guys out here too. We see one of the few with the 11,000 plus I rating, Gustavo Ariel being one of those other guys with immense amount of rating out here. So like we said, we'll just have to wait and see what happens, but we have some of our other AMX veterans of the likes of Jackson Asenge out here as well. So the Delinta esports driver, along with a few of his teammates out here, definitely we'll have to see. We missed him earlier on today in the race. Like we said, that left room for Bruno De Carmo to get up into second place in the overall championship points. So now, Jackson Asenge definitely wanting to bite back onto that and not let Gael Valero get even a bit more of a lead, but now he also has the likes of Bruno De Carmo to get in there. So both of the Brazilian drivers now battling out for P2 in the overall standings. Definitely should make the dynamic interesting as well. Of course, those drivers trying to work together as much as they can. We have a lot of the Delinta esports guys been joining us out for AMX. So at the end of the day, you definitely want to be friendly. It's a friendly competition, but don't put that past them to be trying to do everything they can to still get on that top spot on the podium.
And being a talk about, there was a very good time from Saavedra. Again, we have to get used to knowing the fact that the live timing at the bottom when live times at the bottom when they cross the line, it takes a bit of a couple of seconds of delay to find out where they are in relation to the other drivers. But that first couple of sectors was so good from Saavedra. You can see why he managed to eke out a more than 1.5 second, 1.5 and gap in front of Ralph Benitez and Gustavo Ariel. So that's a one-to-one platform in. And meanwhile, we're on board with Valero, who's actually driving in a Hyundai livery LMP, incidentally. And in relation to the fact that the current head of Hyundai in WRC is Cyril Abiteboul, the former Renault guy. So there's a bit of a French connection right there.
Now looking at the timing screen, so seen with Marco Saavedra in that top spot, so he did really well yesterday. We seen him out there. We had TCR races going on. We also had the F4 races. So Marco Saavedra, I'd say yesterday, probably the one thing that plagued a lot of the drivers out there, whether they were extremely fast or whether they were kind of falling towards the back. We had so many incidents going on that entirely shook up the grid throughout the entire race. So some of these drivers, I know, trying to shake off what happened yesterday, come back out here today, have a fresh day, a clean slate, and really be able to show, all right, even though we had some of those incidents yesterday, we are back out here and we are here to win once again. So we'll have to keep an eye definitely on Marco Saavedra for that. But there we see Gael Valero now currently able to jump up to 6th place in qualifying, just over Aaron Vasquez.
Can't imagine that. The two teammates are close together here. And yes, you can flip the script for the entire top 15 to put the guy in 15th on pole. But the two teammates being together here is something to watch out for. We'll keep an eye out with Valero and Vasquez once the race starts and see how they will progress up through the field. As meanwhile, someone who will be lining up right in the back, it will definitely be Ralph Benitez, judging where he's going. He's put together a good lap previously, but still not enough yet to topple Saavedra, who's still up in front.
And I'm loving that livery behind him there in the red, white, and blue. Of course, I'm a bit biased on that, but definitely, I'd say probably the best livery out there today. But all jokes aside, folks, definitely see now, I'm looking at the timing on the bottom. Aaron Vasquez now, sectors 2 and 3 getting a little bit better. So he is absolutely getting faster and faster, and pretty characteristic of him. We've seen a few times out there in the Lightning McQueen livery. So it looks like some of the ones that he isn't running his team livery, he likes to show out the Lightning McQueen, get it out on track. Currently sitting in 8th place, but like I mentioned, seeing the sector times, he is getting faster and faster. So we have about 5 minutes left out here. All of the drivers, the pace is roughly just under a 2:15. So these drivers out here definitely putting on a show. Speaking of putting on a show, Peter Zuba, one of the best drivers on the grid. We've seen him be very consistent. Once again, like we said, it's really unfortunate for some of these drivers when you see them racing a race so well, only to be caught up in an incident, only to have the littlest of mistakes. But like they say, that is racing. So Peter Zuba looking to also redeem himself a bit, get back up on there and get back on the podium. Out here, the race clutch driver, also one of the ones that we've seen their livery starting to change up a little bit. It seems like a lot of guys out here in sim racing lately. Drago Racing started changing up their livery a bit. Team Redline had their special silver livery for the last 24-hour event. So definitely interesting to see these guys switching the looks of their cars up just a little bit.
Yeah, it's just a case of brand exercise, and case in point here, it was right on cue, isn't it? We go on board immediately to Bruno Carmo, porting the initials of TK, that's Tony Kanan, but they did run dramatically different liveries in the past few seasons, especially when they had Texaco colors. Now they have a sister brand of Texaco, the Linte, if I'm not mistaken, is an oil brand as well. They're running predominantly black colored cars, but with a bit of yellow trims to make it look like the old JPS Lotuses back in the day, as more and more times are starting to come in, including Tobias Soriano. Look at that second, third and fourth sectors looks really good. I think he might just be on here for close to a provisional pole time.
Here we go, see Toby Soriano if he's able to best his lap, currently sitting in 4th place as he comes, and he does, taking that top spot away from Marco Saavedra. So now he's going to be happy about that. With just 3 minutes remaining, these drivers may only have about one, maybe 1.5 laps left to go. So definitely you see the smiles all there from Toby Soriano getting up into P1 in qualifying so far. But now we see Marco Saavedra, if he's able to improve on his time. He was sitting in that top spot for quite a while. Definitely going to be interesting. I think between Soriano and Marco Saavedra, I expect to see a lot of back and forth, as well as we see there Bruno De Carmo sitting in 3rd currently. But now coming across the chicane onto the home stretch. Here we go, folks, across the final line. Will Saavedra have enough to improve on his lap time? And he just misses it. So still very consistent, still very, very quick out here, but not able to reclaim that top spot. So here we go, with just a couple minutes left in practice. Some of these guys now hitting the pits.
Indeed, and in fact, that Saavedra, I don't think we'll have enough time to actually set another one, because look at that, 2 minutes passed already. The last 2 minutes of qualifying, that's it. His chance of getting the fastest time in qualifying is out of the window. Meanwhile, a couple of drivers we see with the Red Bull livery, that was Gustavo Ariel. That's a very nice touch there with the amount of Team Redline liveries that we had in a couple of seasons past. See, one of those still pretty much alive and kicking. Martin Tico, P11 right now, but he'll start right up there, the sharp end in P5. If he stays where he is right now, looks as though he may not be able to improve. Guy further behind him, Pedro Moro, who was now earlier in the ACC race. Across the line he goes. Looks as though he improves his time, but only stays in P13 and P3 when we flip the script.
Look at the timing here. We see Martin Chico in 11th position. So our top 11 drivers less than a second within each other, but looking at the huge gap now between Toby Soriano and Marco Saavedra. So he was able to get about 0.3 faster in one of those laps. Like we said, definitely some of these, the draft coming into play, so that's part of it now with having the qualifying traffic out here as we round out the final minute. Martin Chico looking pretty good, and he's able to get up into 2nd place now. So Marco Saavedra falling down 1 more position. So that is your top 3 currently. Toby Soriano, Martin Chico, and Marco Saavedra. And 2 more drivers, Gustavo Ariel, Ralph Benitez, coming across the line. So just like that, in the final 60 seconds of the qualifying session, the grid is starting to get shaken up already.
And mind you, will be shaking up even further once we flip the script. But in qualifying, the fastest 2 times are held by Argentines, with Tobias Soriano and Martin Chico holding that front, with a driver in P5 being of Argentine nationality as well. That's Marco Saavedra. Coming out of staff mode here is actually Resende, but he will not have enough time to complete a lap.
And there we go, folks. Just like that, we round out the qualifying session out here at Spa-Francorchamps. So Stavlo, Belgium, definitely beautiful scenery going on as we see some of these great shots from our production team. But nonetheless, we'll definitely have to see Tim State barely making it into that top 15 reverse grid. Unfortunately for Diego Villarreal, he was in that 16th position, just missed out. But there's your BenQ session winner, top qualifying, Tobias Soriano in first place. Coming in second, Martin Chico. Third place, Gustavo Ariel, getting it in at the last second, as well as Ralph Benitez in fourth place. Fifth goes to Marcos Saavedra. Sixth, Bruno De Carmo. Seventh place, Jackson Asenge. Eighth place, Gael Valero. Ninth, Gaston Kulabi. 10th place, Aaron Vasquez. 11th, Peter Zuba. 12th, Pedro Dean. 13th, Pedro Mora. 14th, Evandro Dantas. 15th, we got Tim State. And like I mentioned, unfortunately, Diego Villarreal missing that reverse grid in 16th place. So we have quite a bit of a grid out here. We have a lot of amazing, ridiculously quick drivers. So I think once they start settling into these LMP3 cars, like I said, I know a lot of these guys are very used to the LMP2 cars. A little bit more downforce, a little bit more power. So we'll just have to wait and see. But definitely, I look forward to this race, Amir.
Oh, certainly with a stacked field like this, especially with the guys up in front having multiple KI ratings, it's going to be a good one here, Kevin.
So we see as the Porsche safety car out, waiting for the drivers to finish getting out on the track before we start our formation lap. We're getting out here, so that's right, folks. These cars as well, we are on a formation lap, having rolling start. So although they have, you know, a lot of people I see compare kind of with the endurance. Hey, these probably the closest thing that you're going to get to the Formula cars without being completely open wheel. Have a lot of aero, a lot of power, but definitely they weigh more as well. So still great door-to-door racing, especially we seen yesterday some of these guys were getting super close to each other, quite literally wheel to wheel. And that unfortunately caused a couple of incidences when we were out at Zolder yesterday. A couple of those curbs very unforgiving. But with this track being a little bit wider, a little bit more sweeping turns, and definitely these guys will be able to push these cars to the absolute limit on this track.
And then some as well, because again, slipstream draft is going to be very potent here, given the fact that the cars are so close to each other. Plus, it's not a very powerful car, so you're not be able to get away, and it doesn't produce that much aerodynamic outwash. We might just see some really close battle here, Kevin.
Yeah, like I mentioned, so one of these cars, one of the series that we have going on in iRacing as well, part of a multi-class along with the GT4s. So these guys, like we mentioned, a bit of an entry into some of the more higher powered vehicles. But there, the safety car is going off. Tim State still holding. Oh no, there's already a crash right there. Let's see who that is. Got into one of the esports drivers, and unfortunately someone getting spun off all the way in the back. That looks like that's going to be Evandro Dantas. So Evandro Dantas is towards the front of the pack, and unfortunately getting spun out as we see another spin out there. So already the lap one carnage ensues.
Wow, Wayne, it's amazing that, again, it's similar to what happened in AMX 20 last weekend, where we were barely coming out of the final corner. We already had a couple of cars crashing into barriers, and one of them was Gael Valero. He had the front of his entire GTP ripped off, but apart from the small little kerfuffles here and there, everyone else has actually gone away cleanly here, up through Rouge and through Radion, and now onto the camera straight.
You know, we'll have to get a replay on that. I'm wondering if Tim State might have checked up just a little bit and Dantas wasn't quite expecting that. So, like I said, we might have to get a replay on that to see exactly what happened. But nonetheless, it ended up being the result. Dantas, unfortunately, getting the bad end of the deal, getting shoved all the way back into 13th. And here's a quick replay down there in the bottom right corner. So, looks like Dantas, looks like he was just going right to the outside and then unfortunately getting clipped. So, I'm not sure if they were just not expected the width of these cars and thought he had more space than he did, but he was going to the outside, had another driver trying to kind of cut that corner a little bit tighter, and unfortunately, that's what happens out here, folks.
Not sure which of the Delinte Tony Kanaan cars was that. It might have been Resende or Mora, because they're actually right up that sharp end, but whatever it is, it wasn't really a good start. No, in fact, it is Pedro Mora, so because Mora was actually closest to that one, really it was so unfortunate it had to happen. But luckily for him, it wasn't any major damage, but he can still carry on here, albeit 5.5 seconds behind the next driver, which is Diego Villarreal. On board Zuba, he is going to say his side on state.
And just like that, so Tim State's still doing a pretty good job holding on to that top spot. Like we said, a lot of the drivers behind him, he was able to just squeeze out in front of that incident, being in the pole position. But right now we have Peter Zuba and Aaron Vasquez right behind us. Looks like someone is going into the pits. That looks like that will be Jackson Senjay. So Jackson and Senjay getting into the pits as well as Kulavi. So a couple of those drivers that might have gotten caught up a bit in that incident going in for a quick repair. But that leaves some of our top drivers. Now Aaron Vasquez making a move over Peter Zuba right there, going to the inside as we're now heading down to the track. So we'll have to see these guys door to door. That definitely should be interesting. Tim State, not quite the pace that these guys have right behind him. So he's going to definitely have to be pulling out every single move he can to defend against them. So it's a lot harder when you have two quick guys behind you trying to defend. But so far, Tim State doing a pretty good job of that, being very, very defensive. But that might just give room for these guys. And oh, someone giving the peek. We'll see. You don't want to go three wide through here. So right there, Tim State getting back in that. So the other guys able to just get in front of him, braking a little bit later. And a great move from Peter Zuba now to get first place.
Yeah, but for how long here? Because again, Vasquez will try to fight around the outside, coming through Malmedy up to Jackie Hicks corner. He does take it on the outside. Can he make it through here this time? No. Zuba hangs it even wider on the outside, coming up Jackie Hicks corner and take back the lead as they went side by side. And we did think side by side is possible in these cars, and it has certainly happened here, Kevin.
Yeah, look at that. And Tim State still doing a great job holding on to the rear bumper of Peter Zuba. Aaron Vasquez right there, though, was holding it on the outside, knowing the limits of the grip, being able to keep that on there. So right now, still Tim State doing a great job. But here we see behind him as well, Martin Chico trying to get around him. So we have about 4 drivers near the front of the pack. And this is the one thing that I love about these cars, a little bit slower horsepower. I mean, 480 horsepower is nothing to wink at and say that's slow, but in comparison to these cars versus the LMP2 cars and even the GTP, LMP1, definitely on the slower side of things. But still, we knew it, we called it, we said there's going to be some extremely close racing, and that's what we've been getting so far, almost through lap 2, and things have still been very tight up towards the front of the pack.
Oh, can Dean get it stopped in time? His State goes very wide. He gets swallowed up for the rest of the field. And look at that. Peter Zuba's getting kept into the pits. That might just be for a drive-through penalty.
Yeah, we'll have to see exactly what happened there. Like I said, he's doing very good, battling it out with Aaron Vasquez, and unfortunately now having to hit the pit. So we'll see how long he stays in there, if he's able to get out. But now we can see towards the back on another replay, an incident with Marcos Saavedra. So again, these drivers just getting super close to each other. And unfortunately, just a little mistake, sending Marcos Saavedra out into the wall, just exploding the rear end of that car, as you can see in the replay. Parts flying, ooh, and then once again. So unfortunately, Marcos Saavedra doing really well in qualifying. Now, still plagued by those incidents, get hard into the wall. Now he's in the pit lane, still getting those repairs done.
Yeah, probably try to utilize a bit of the quick repair that we normally put in the servers anyway. But look at that, Villarreal, Vedra, and Soriano all are now joining on the sidelines. They've said Villarreal, we saw, was actually in the pit lane, but he's still in there. So apart from those 3 people having a bit of a gap, the rest of the field is still going after him, still going after the front runners here from P13 all the way to first. From the view of Javi. In fact, Villarreal now makes it 14. You can see as the pit lane, exits the pit lane, but Aaron Vasquez up in front with Chico in second place.
There we can see also Gael Valero, Bruno De Carmo, we have Ralph Benitez, Pedro Marcel, all these guys right here in the middle of the pack now, putting on a great show. So Tim State was leading first that whole nearly 2 laps when we started, getting past now, slowly dropping down the grid, currently in 8th place. So we see Gael Valero, Ralph Benitez making the move over Tim State. We'll have to see as well. Like I said, a lot of these drivers, now it's going to be a battle in the back for that P15. We see Toby Soriano, Marcos Saavedra coming out of the pits finally, but definitely those 2 are going to have to keep it up, try to get into that 15th place position to get that next reverse grid for heat number 2.
Yeah, he is well truly clear right now. Villarreal is in front of Soriano by about 40 seconds though. He is clear here. But meanwhile, thinking of somebody who's not clear right now is Martin Chico, who's only about half a second in front of Pedro Dean. So Dean's got a bit between his teeth.
And here we go. So Ralph Benitez, one of the Delinta Esports drivers out here. So like I said, definitely the draft is playing a little bit not as crazy as it would be in the LMP2 cars. But now we see him state Pedro Moura trying to get the draft off him. Some of these guys battling it out towards the front, but now Aaron Vasquez, since he's been in first place, very characteristic. We've seen this time and time again last season. Once Aaron Vasquez is able to get up front into first place, he typically walks away with the win. So Aaron Vasquez with nearly a I'd say just over a 1 second gap over Martin Chico. So Martin Chico going to have the absolute perfect drive to be able to get back into that top spot. So we'll have to wait and see, as Aaron Vasquez, like I mentioned, one of the best drivers out here in AMX.
Yep, and with a hardly believable 11,000 iRating alongside Gustavo Ariel, so the both of them have really high iRatings here. It'll be hard pressed to find anybody who can try to match them. Let's both of them start batting a bit. Right now it's first and fifth. The fortunes are different between these two guys with the highest iRating in this lobby right now. But make no mistake, the other drivers no slouches either. Everyone else above the high 9,000s, 8,000s. These guys know a thing or two how to drive on iRacing, and it's certainly showing right now as we're looking at this battle pack that Gustavo Ariel being tailed by Gal Valero, chasing after Bruno De Carmo. This might be an interesting battle here coming up to the final sector.
And one of the things I feel like some people may not realize, I'll stop on that, as now we see Gustavo Ariel going for the move right here over Bruno De Carmo. So going cut to the inside, had a little bit of that draft, able to swing it to the inside now. We'll see, but Bruno De Carmo doing a good job at holding onto the rear bumper. You're going to see if he will be able to get out of this. So right now, Gustavo Ariel sitting in fourth place. This is a position that he was in yesterday as well in the F4 vehicle. So we'll have to see, as we also see the Helicam just getting a great view how closely drivers actually are to each other, especially when you're in the cockpit as well too. It's definitely very dangerous game to play, but these guys, like we said, 11,000 plus iRating, a lot of these guys over 8,000, definitely what we want to see. But now we have the door-to-door battle going on right behind as well. So man, there's nothing but non-stop action going out here no matter where you look, Amir.
Yeah, left, right, and center. The guys in front are really close. In fact, you can see De Carmo, Valero, Benitez here we're on board with right now. Just under a second. That's how ridiculous it is that you can fit a second between three cars. But it's as though it might just become third of the three as we're on board Benitez and try to get De Carmo on the brakes. But he doesn't, but Valero does. We have a bit of smoke being kicked out coming out of Lake Home here. And hanging right outside is Bruno De Carmo. Manages to hang on to it, and this might allow Benitez to come through. Nope, Benitez gets blocked by Valero there. He knows full well he doesn't want to lose any precious positions and time here.
Then we see Bruno De Carmo, so might have gotten a little bit of that smoke. I seen that last corner, just a little bit of smoke come from Bruno De Carmo, so definitely the battle going on between Gael Valero, Bruno De Carmo, putting on that pressure. Bruno De Carmo just slightly overdriving now as he drops one more place. Beautiful move from Gael Valero to overtake him, so we'll have to see if he's able to hold on to it. Looks like he does keep his line right here, so great moves right there. But now we have the two Delinta Esports drivers behind him. We also see a replay of what happened. Martin Chico earlier on just going into that corner a little bit too hot and unfortunately locking up, sliding off the track, and he comes back on just barely missing the other drivers. So that one right there could have been a lot more dangerous than it ended up being.
Yeah, luckily some evasive driving needed from the other guys. Plus, Chico probably just gained the speed so that he doesn't come in too brashly at the expense of he has lost time here to Gustavo Ariel, with Valero not far behind either. He's in the middle of no man's line this time. They'll try to just eke out a bit of an advantage, but with the cars drafting each other, that might be a bit of a bridge too far.
And now looking at the timing screen, so one person that's kind of been sneaking his way up so far he has been Pedro Dean. So now Pedro Dean sitting in that second place position, one half of the Dean brothers out here on track today. So like I said, I already know I sound like a broken record saying it, but Pedro Dean definitely one of these drivers we've seen improve every single week, and now being back up on the podium. So he's been doing better and better results as the weeks go by, as the seasons go by. So we love seeing that from all of these drivers. So definitely big shout out to Pedro Dean now is about 3 seconds off the pace still, though, from Aaron Vasquez. So Aaron Vasquez, like we mentioned, able to pull away once he got up into first place. Now nearly 3 seconds ahead of second place. But like I said, Gustavo Ariel, another amazing driver, sitting in that third place. So we have our top 5 drivers nearly, with quite a little bit of a gap between them, a little bit of breathing room. And now the battle ensues for 5th place between Gael Valero and Bruno De Carmo. De Carmo making a couple of mistakes earlier on, but now saying, all right, I'm starting to calm down a bit. My tires cooled down just slightly from those little incidences. I'm coming for Gael Valero. But like we've seen, Gael Valero being an excellent defender out here all season long.
He does, but then when he attacks it very calculatively. Doesn't become too brash. He knows when to pick out the right time to do the moves. And it's certainly something that Bruno De Carmo might be thinking of right now with his teammate Ralph Benitez right behind. Where can they try to get him right now? They will keep to get in that draft, but they know full well if they just trip over each other or just don't really get close enough to the back of Valero, he might just be checking out here as we're on board now with Benitez. We got 3 laps to go after this. They're gonna have to make their mind up soon here, otherwise they'll just be stuck in these positions.
So here we go. So we are lap 6 out of 9 out here at Spa in heat number 1. And definitely the top 4, things have kind of started going a little bit more. Martin Chico now slowly starting to get in that gap. And we see Ralph Benitez making the move over Bruno De Carmo. So right there, getting really, really close. But the 2 teammates, we'll have to see if they are on comms together. They might be chatting it up or might have someone else out there spotting for them. We'll have to wait and see on that. But definitely with that, using the draft, able to slingshot, and now getting a substantial gap between them and the guys behind them as well. So behind Bruno De Carmo, there's almost a 4-second gap between the next position. So once again, we have the battle for P6 ensuing right now. But with them being teammates, I'm not sure that they will battle out too hard. I think they're going to try and work together more than they're going to try to battle it out.
They actually just swapped positions coming into the bus stop because might have been a communication with the teammates. It's not team orders per se. He's just saying, okay, I'm a bit faster than you. Can we try to get it here by moving out of the way? I'll try to give chase. And that's exactly what Benitez is doing right now. The Carmo is just watching behind here, watching brief in case something happens. And they have another teammate further behind as well. I think I just saw Pedro Moro coming to the shot. Yeah, so Pedro is the last of the other Benitez guys. They're going home to the gravel. Meanwhile, question mark from the production team, is it a legitimate drift attempt? I think it might just been accidental, but did he grab a hold of the brakes? Yes, he did. Did he clutch kick it? No, I don't think he had enough time. The car literally just nearly got itself beached there. Though, luckily for him, he got away with that one at the expense of maybe a bit of a pair of trousers, because that was pretty much so Brown moment.
And speaking of that, I mean, that would be something interesting to see out here. I know there's a lot of leagues out there in Assetto Corsa that do professional sim drifting out there. So, I mean, I'm not sure that we have quite the amount of guys out here. A lot of these guys definitely more on the track side, trying to keep the grip, trying to keep it fast. Not really quite out here. You don't get style points out in AMX, but that'd definitely be something, just a fun little vente sometime in the future. Like we said, with sim racing growing, guys, we never know what's possible out there. We've had a lot of people asking about if there's going to be multi-class races. We've had some people asking out there for off-road races in the trucks, the Pro 4 trucks. We've had people asking for rallycross. So definitely all I can say is stay tuned. The more you guys give your feedback, the more we might just have to wait and see what future seasons have for us. But as we go right now, so the penultimate lap, we are in lap 8 out of 9 out here in heat number 1, and things getting a little bit close right there. Ralph Benitez onto the rear bumper of Gael Valero. So these guys are doing great job. And I see someone out there in the Twitch chat saying if we do rally, that someone is definitely in. So I mean, I think we've had quite a few people. I know we've had another person out here. We've seen a lot. Leo Mora, who's primarily does the Pro 4 trucks, I believe, out there in iRacing. So definitely would be interesting to see that, as well as some of these guys, if we keep it open to multiple cars, multiple classes per day, some of these road racers getting out and switching it up a bit. But there we see Ralph Benitez trying to peek over Gael Valero, not quite having the pace to pass him. So trying to get that position over him, but just falls back into the same spot.
And what a coincidence that just now when we saw Villarreal having a bit of a drift attempt, somebody with the name Drift God comes in. So definitely that was not pre-planned, but it's a nice little token of coincidence that someone came in at the right time there. But yes, Rallycross will be a good idea, but the implementation has to be really, really good, because again, you have to remember we have multiple drivers involved. So we want to do like a group, it has to be done in a very quick manner, otherwise we'll probably be doing like a 5-hour broadcast, because again, qualifying days for Rallycross can take at least a few hours of time just to sort everybody out for the next phase of competition.
Yeah, I'd say definitely if we were to do that out here, we'd have to be a little bit creative on how we do the qualifying heats, how we go into it, whether or not we have a qualifying session before the broadcast or not. So, I mean, plenty of great ideas. I'd love to see that. I think we could get definitely very creative. We've gotten pretty creative out here with a lot of these other AMX races now, though I can assure we definitely have the team, we have the talent out there, but like I said, we'll have to wait and see. Definitely a lot of factors go into these races, putting them on. Also want to give a big shout out to the production team. As the white flag flies, we can see right there, oh, Gustavo Ariel kind of has his hands up in the air, so I'm not sure if he's a little frustrated there or just kind of being a bit, I'm not sure exactly what he was saying on there. We don't have the best angle to see his facial expressions, but I seen a hand go up. Like I said, I'm not sure if that was out of frustration. He caught up to Pedro Dean very, very quick, so I know he's going to try to make a move here. Aaron Vasquez sitting up almost 4 seconds in front of Pedro Dean, so it looks like Aaron Vasquez may have this win in heat number 1 in the bag, so it's going to be between Gustavo Ariel and Pedro Dean.
Yeah, Ariel got a good drop out of the first corner. Let's see, he looks under the inside. Dean actually went on the inside just now, but it looks as though there's no stopping Ariel that one. The draft was way too powerful and he got the car stopped in time.
Yeah, and looking at that, I'm really surprised that Pedro Dean didn't go for the inside line, so I'm not sure if whatever happened earlier on, that too, between him and Gustavo Ariel, if he just knew, okay, I'm not going to fight this, I'm not going to risk getting a crash. I want to get on the podium, but I'm not going to risk getting P2 so much that both of us end up going off the track. So we might have to see what the strategy was there from Pedro Dean, but nonetheless, now falling into 3rd place. We have right behind him, though, Martin Chico, who's been showing great pace as well. So we just have a few turns left out here, folks, in the final lap to see what happens. Aaron Vasquez still sitting in 1st place, uncontended, nearly all heat long. He got into 1st place and just held on to it, pulling away ever since. So now he'll have to battle his way back through the pack in heat number 2.
Yep. So is the fate of drivers when they don't have the best of first heats. But regardless of that, we're going to have an interesting second heat as well, because Zuba is going to be right in the thick of it here in that midfield. But looking up to the guys battling for 3rd, Dean still has his work cut out for him, because Chico is now ready to pounce coming out to the final corner. As meanwhile, coming into that final corner, Aaron Vasquez is going to take a really comfortable win here, Kevin.
Oh, definitely. So it's great to see him back and coming back after a while that he's been in a hiatus. Aaron Vasquez now coming across the checkered flag in 1st place. So your heat number 1 winner, Aaron Vasquez. Coming in 2nd, looks like Gustavo Ariel, followed by Pedro Dean in 3rd. So these guys battling it out every single lap. There was action throughout the entire grid. All of these drivers showing a very close race. Unfortunately, we had a couple of incidents early on. Like we said, we've seen that quite a bit. We have the best drivers out here just pushing it to the limits, and unfortunately, they push beyond those limits and sometimes end up into a wall, end up into another driver. But here we have the rest of the grid now making their way around the final parts of the course, coming across the checkered flag. So Amir, definitely an interesting heat number 1. Things kind of got shaken up a bit. Not too much chaos. These drivers kept it pretty clean for the most part, other than that lap 1. What do you expect to see out of heat number 2?
Probably more the same, and hopefully, because some of the faster guys are somewhere in that mid-pack, we might actually get close actions. Meanwhile, this is actually going to become the most crucial battle ever, and it's not even for the win. This is actually for P15 and pole position for the 2nd heat.
So there we see, like we seen earlier, Marco Saavedra, Toby Soriano fighting for that P15 position. So the reverse grid is only for the top 15. You can see there Marco Saavedra, just unfortunately, you can tell he's just, all right, you know what, this one, I just need to finish this out, do what I can. and restart for that second one. So with still about half a second now coming into the final part of the track, the last couple of turns, doesn't look like he quite has it, so he's going to need a mistake from Toby Soriano. But Toby Soriano now back onto the home straight. That's looking like he has this one in the bag. So Marcus Saavedra going to be having to start from the very back. We know he is one of the quickest drivers out here today, but like I said, unfortunately, he has a lot of work cut out for him, especially with our race winner gridding right in front of him, Aaron Vasquez. So he's going to have to get through some of the fastest drivers to get up into the position. But we have Aaron Vasquez, like I said, sitting in that top spot. So your Ben Q session winner, Aaron Vasquez, able to get away. Now, you know he's pumped about that. No stranger to first place. Coming in second, though, we do have Gustavo Ariel, who just quite didn't have the pace, almost got involved. There was a bit of a pile up early on in the race that he had to battle his way through. Also, Pedro Dean in third place, Martin Chico fourth, Gael Valero in fifth, Ralph Benito's in sixth, seventh, Bruno De Carmo, eighth place, Pedro Mora, ninth, Peter Zuba, 10th place, Evandro Dantas, Jackson Asenge 11th, Gaston Kulavi coming in 12th, Tim State 13th, Diego Villarreal 14th, rounding out your reverse grid, Toby Soriano, and like we've seen, Marco Saavedra starting from the back. But also big congratulations to Peter Zuba getting the fastest lap out here in heat number one. So although he finished in 9th place, Peter Zuba able to get the fastest lap, had a bit of clean air and able to get on there no problem, getting really fast. So we know he has the pace. He's going to be kind of out in the middle of the pack again. Like you said, Amir, I expect the middle of the pack definitely probably going to be some of the most interesting battles, at least through this first half of the race.
Indeed, and once those guys who are fast carve their way through up to the front, that's where we get a bit more of a grandstand finish, because again, the way that Vasquez just spurred in front, and yes, that photo just now was not of Vasquez, that was actually Marco Saavedra at one point, but anyway, we'll wait and see how the first part of the race shakes off, and then how fast the guys behind can carve their way through back to the front.
So here we go as we go on to the final turn, and now the cars are off. So here we go, folks. Heat number 2. The drivers are off. Green flag is flying, and these guys, not quite, a little bit of uncertainty now, looking to get that. But it looks like so far, Toby Soriano doing a good job holding on to that first place position. Like we've seen last heat, got caught up into an incident. Ooh, already some door banging going on from some of these drivers out here, going 2 wide, 3 wide out there towards the middle and the back of the pack. But as we go down the hill, especially through Eau Rouge, you do not want to be going 3 wide in here. Things can get very dangerous very quick.
Yeah, certainly, and remember what happened to Formula 2 with Antoine Hubert a few years back. You can get really, really nasty when so many cars go through at one time. And Soriano then tries to make do with the spot that he had up in front by trying to break the toe with Resende. There's Valero trying to go through on the inside of Villarreal. Villarreal holds firm, but now Dantas coming through us. Put it behind Chico spin.
Just like that, unfortunately. So Chico getting caught up there, spinning out. So it is not Chico's day out here today. We know he is one of these fast drivers. He has great pace. But like we said, it's whenever you have driving this close, the littlest of incidences can cause things like that. So even when you're just pushing hard and you don't make a mistake, or if another driver makes a mistake, the results still happen. So Martin Chico now 15th. Tim State, one of the drivers that ended up dropping all the way down to the back of the pack now.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see the best of him today. He is well and truly behind us. Here's Chico now, coming up to the Cobblers. Yep, he touched the back of one of the Delinte Tony Kanaan cars and gets collected for good measure, but looks as though damage may be just minimal. He can still carry on here, albeit right at the back of the field.
So here we go. Now still going in through lap number 1. Before we get into lap number 2, it looks like your leading is Toby Soriano in first, Jackson St. in second, and Peter Zuba in third. So definitely those guys not having the best race in heat number 1, out here to redeem themselves in heat number 2. But definitely we have also behind Peter Zuba, Bruno De Carmo, Gaston Kulavi, Gael Valero. So a lot of these guys in the middle of the pack had a great race last heat. But if you look at the time, you can see a lot of these drivers up 5 positions, down 5 positions, up 7 positions. So it's been a lot all over the place so far today.
Yep, indeed. It's contrasting fortunes a lot for these guys, but better thought for those guys who are just not being able to make it into the race or in the consistent state. Promising early doors, but then it goes completely pear-shaped when the wick is turned up.
So here we go now on board with Bruno De Carmo, looking to get up into P3. So he starts to battle as now we see Jackson Sanjay, Toby Soriano right there. Jackson Sanjay holding on to that into first place. Toby Soriano now dipping back down one place. So he is now sandwiched between Jackson Sanjay, one of the best defenders out there, and Peter Zuba, one of the best attackers out there. So definitely, I think right now they're just going to try and hold onto their line, and we'll see if we get some more too wide out here. Definitely, I expect that door to door through some of these faster corners. So now that we go back on a little bit more of a straight, but we see the incident with Evandro Dantas right here from an overhead view. Ooh, just going a little bit too hard into that, going to the outside, and unfortunately hitting another driver, getting spun out. So just taking that a little bit too hot, and that put Evandro Dantas back down in the pack.
That was Villarreal that he collided, I think, because we can see Peter Zuba here. He was definitely not close to anywhere near Dantas that time, as Dantas is now the one who's ended up right at the back here with Chico only about 4 seconds in front of him. Tate is about a lap behind, so these guys at the tail end of the field are probably not going to be slight non-factors as we look up to the battle for the lead. Incidentally, Soriano, Zuba, De Carmo, and Kuhabi chasing after Resende. As you can see, the four insets here of the drivers chasing after each other. It's going to be really tight. As we can see, the first of the move being made is Zuba.
And here we go, folks. So, like I said, door to door, side by side. Ooh, these guys getting really close right there. Peter Zuba, unfortunately, having to slow down just a little bit. That leaves room for Bruno De Carmo to cut up the inside and take that spot. So, Peter Zuba getting really close to Toby Soriano. Now, Toby Soriano falling down. Back and forth, Toby Soriano, Bruno De Carmo, able to just get right there. So, these guys just ever inching so close to each other, right on the bumpers. So we'll have to see now through these high-speed sections, are they going to keep it safe and fall in line, or is someone going to make a move? Probably going to keep it safe at least through this section of the track until we hit the next straightaway before they make the move. So Bruno De Carmo doing a great job. So far, he's already up 6 positions.
Yeah, really, really good chase here. Up to the back of Soriano is De Carmo. As we can see, Zuba tries to think on the inside of De Carmo. No fruit just yet. The driver 61 coach just waiting for the right opportunity to strike. He has at least plenty of life still in hand to make a difference here. But the more he stays behind, the more definitely he will get a bit frustrated. He'll have to keep his mental game sharp here.
And I'm going to have to see what happened. I was looking at the timing screen. I just seen Tim State just falling through the ranks. Diego Villarreal going up nearly 4 positions. So we'll have to see if we missed possibly a crash off screen while we're looking at this battle going on. Because now we see Martin Chico, Marcus Saavedra out in the pits. So it'll be interesting to see if there was a replay, something happened back there. So next see Marcos Saavedra and Benitez. Ooh, just getting into each other right there. Just right on the rear bumper, and both of them getting spun out. Ooh, getting collected up after as well. So, like we said, it has not been Saavedra's day out here today. So, unfortunately, that puts a couple of those drivers back there having to get towed to the pits.
Yeah, man, one of the worst Pico with, I think that it's Saavedra as well. So, 2 retirees, both are Argentines, leaving Soriano and Kohabi trying to be the flag bearers for the country of Argentina in front here. Coming out now to the final corner, Resende knows full well there's a fast Argentiner behind him. It's Soriano, then De Carmo, and then Zuba. The top 4 could not be scripted this way in any way. It's 4 the fastest guys here.
So here we go now. The battle ensues. It's going to be Toby Soriano, Bruno De Carmo for that 2nd place position. But like we said, Peter Zuba still right on the rear bumper of De Carmo. So right now we have a 3-way battle going on for 2nd place. If these guys keep battling it out, that might leave enough room for Jackson Asenge to start getting a bit of a gap up front. So we'll have to see. Toby Soriano, like we mentioned earlier, he's not in the best place because he definitely doesn't want to be defending off so much that these guys start losing pace to Jackson Asenge. But then at the end of the day, hey, you don't want these guys passing you either, especially when you have the 2 Delete the Esports teammates. So here we see Bruno De Carmo making the move right now, going to the inside, and he will get it. So now that leaves the 2 Brazilian drivers in the top 2 positions.
Yep. So We saw just now, Vamos Argentina. Now this is going to be Bora Brazil up in front.
And now we see too, so Peter Zuba also looking to shake it up between all the South American drivers, looking to get up on there. The lone European up there on the board with, stacked between the two Argentinian drivers of Toby Soriano, a little bit of a gap between Peter Zuba and Gaston Culavi. So 4th and 5th place have just a slight bit of gap between them. I see everyone going in there now, going crazy in chat. So everyone cheering on their countries, cheering on their countrymen. But definitely we'll have to see, as Bruno De Carmo seems to have a little bit more pace over Jackson Asensio. So we'll have to see if those two drivers end up swapping spots. Like we said, we're only not even halfway through this race, so definitely going to be an interesting to see what happens up there for that top spot.
Yep, as we now come literally into the halfway point, because we're past sector 2, so we're actually now in the halfway point of this race. But how time flies, isn't it? Especially given the fact that the competition is really quite heated. You lose track of how many laps have been done. Coming up now to the bus stop chicane, the battle for P5. That's Valero on Kuhavi, and that's Valero through up to P5 now. He will set his sights on this top 4 while still very close to each other. And again, we have to reiterate the point. We did expect some really close racing, but the side-by-side action really has taken us off guard here. And it's quite a pleasant surprise to see that everyone in these LMP3 cars are driving so competitively.
I mean, looking at these, especially, you know, not being quite as harsh as the LMP2s, I think this is going to be one of those cars that I might just have to get in iRacing and start putting in some practice. I usually favor a bit more of the open wheeler cars, some of the stuff a bit more such as the F4, the more downforce, but definitely out here, I love doing me some multi-class racing as well, so I might have to go out there and purchase it. Plus, just the beautiful sound of that V8 engine roaring. But here we see an incident with Aaron Vasquez in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. So, looking very close. Those drivers getting really, really close to each other. But unfortunately, just Aaron Vasquez, not sure what happened. All of a sudden, he just went wide and then ended up going off into the gravel, going out into the wall. So, Aaron Vasquez winning heat number 1 out here in heat number 2. Not sure if he had a technical issue, if something came loose with his wheel. We might have to check up on that later, but nonetheless, ends up going off the course and into the wall, into the pits now.
Yeah, man, that's a real shame, isn't it? That one of the front runners is not going to be taking part any further in this particular battle. As looking up to Zuba's on board. So again, not really making any inroads in terms of overtaking, but he's biding his time, waiting for the right moment to strike. Doesn't want to get involved in unnecessary collisions that might jeopardize this potentially promising race result, for only because he just tried to get up to the back of somebody else up in front of him in a short space of time.
And one thing, I mean, I expected it, well, just coming off from the races yesterday and just seeing the absolute chaos that was ensuing, I was expecting to see a little bit of that out here today, but like I said, out here in these LMP3 cars, these drivers really seem to have a bit more of a handle on it. Like we said, there's only been those couple early on incidents, the first lap, which is very characteristic. I mean, not just in AMX, but you see that in a lot of sim racing as well. Those guys just trying to push it hard, get ahead in the first lap. So we'll see, but so far that's led to Jackson Asensio holding on to first place with his teammate Bruno De Carmo in second, and now still Toby Soriano battling it off for third place.
Yep. And it looks as though they're starting to lose sight of here from the two Brazilians up in front as we now go back to Soriano and Zuba. Zuba, no doubt, will be feeling a bit antsy right now, seeing that the two Brazilians are getting away. Asensio and De Carmo will be working together. We saw it just now. That happened in Formula 1, of course, when Hamilton and Russell were working together in the slipstream to get in front of Norris. It wasn't enough because Norris was still about a second behind Hamilton as they crossed the line. Let's see if De Carmo and Asensio can prevent that similar situation happening to them.
And so here we go, folks. So still a great job, though. A big props to Toby Soriano being able to battle off Peter Zuba. So still doing a great job defending. Like we said, we haven't seen out here too many opportunistic places to pass. A lot of those have really come down to the turns going in from those long straightaways. Just seeing who can break later, who can get in the draft and just try to slingshot around the other driver, get side by side. But like we said, we have a lot of guys out here, really textbook defending out here if I've ever seen it, Amir.
Dudley is very professional and not too malicious in their attempts to try the block. Though again, it's probably because they do not want to actually just sacrifice the car for the sake of having a bit of a hit. They want to make sure that they still continue in the same condition they had when they were in their fastest times, so that they don't lose any precious moments up in front, precious time up in front when they can have moments of craziness in between to win a race. And for Soriano, at least, he will be thinking about trying to defend, but probably not too hard. Otherwise, he'll end up just fighting among himself and Zuba, losing sight of the leaders.
So now I'm looking at a couple different people. So it looks like Martin Chico, now seen on the time screen, has already had to hit the pits twice this race. So unfortunately him, like we've seen Aaron Vasquez getting into incident earlier, Marco Saavedra now retired from the race. So some of these guys, like I said, it is unfortunate when you see some of the best drivers just having to end up in the pits, ending up with their car damaged. But now, definitely one big change. We've seen Jackson Asenje last heat. He didn't have the best race in heat number 1, but so far he has been holding on to that top spot. But here we go. We can see with his teammate Bruno De Carmo. So not sure if they're going to try to do a bit of a bump draft. That might be a bit dangerous in these cars, or if Jackson Asenje may give that place to his teammate, because they know the longer that they hold on like this, the closer Toby Soriano is to overtake them. And now here we see as well Gael Valero, Gaston Coulat, Gustavo Ariel. So the battle going on currently for P5.
And what a battle it is, isn't it? Valero, Kulhavi, and Ariel. Put all those things together, it sounds like a very, very scary train, express train with the drivers in there. And especially being scared if you're Gaston Kohavi, you're stuck in between both of these guys. And you know full well that if you make a mistake, they're going to pounce at you within a moment's notice.
And looking at some of these here, so as well, speaking of the overall championship points, so this is going to do great as long as Jackson Asenje and Bruno De Carmo can hold on to those top 2 spots. Gael Valero, like I said, he started slowly pulling away. That gap in the overall championship points started dwindling, and now there is roughly, I believe, about 50 points. I'll have to look at it again, bring it back up, but I know that gap came down to about 30 points and it started expanding again. But here we go. This is going to be a big win for Jackson Asenje if he's able to hold on to it. We are currently lap number 7 of 9 out here in heat number 2 at Spa, and definitely the 2 Brazilians up front have been doing great all heat long. We may see the Brazilian 1-2 out here, Amir.
What a day would that be, because we can finally use that Gabal Bueno adage of commentaries when a Brazilian driver or Brazilian sportsman achieves great success. But we'll save that for now a bit later, as De Carmo might have Soriano and Zuba for company here, because they both are also been working together in the slipstream.
And looking at all these 2, so you know what, one thing that definitely to keep in mind, just seeing the overall standings, Bruno De Carmo was in 3rd in the overall point standings behind Jackson, and now he is up in 2nd place. So being out here in those ACC races earlier on definitely helped him out a lot. So we'll have to see if they're going to do that really, really close in points now as well. So not only just working together out here in the heat number 2, out here on track all day long, but they might start working together out in the points championship. So see if they start strategizing, especially being teammates as well, not just both being countrymen, but both of the Delinte esports drivers, if they are going to get out there, try to get the points, try to work together the rest of the season to really get those points reeled in back from Gael Valero. So far they are both ahead of Valero, and now Valero doing a great job still holding off Gustavo Ariel and Gaston Kulabi right behind them. So Gustavo Ariel having a great heat number 1, now sitting still in the middle of the pack with only a couple laps left to go.
And look, he's already been done by Ariel as well out of our sights. His resistance was probably broken by the fact that maybe Ariel just managed to nick the lock a bit and open up a gap that got him through, and now he sets his sights on Valero. Boy, oh boy, that is some bad matchup there, isn't it? Yes, it might not be for a win. We saw how Resende and Valero were actually side by side each other across Interlagos that time around, but not a similar situation here with a battle for 5th and 6th between Valero and Ariel. And for Resende's case, he might be wishing that Ariel might just do them both a favor here as we come across the line. Then white flag, final lap. Let's see what the top 4 have in store here.
So definitely we've seen Jackson Sanchez, Bruno Di Carmo working together just a little bit to hold on to those top 2 positions. But like we've seen now, Peter Zuba still trying to hunt down Toby Soriano. There is a bit enough of a gap between Peter Zuba and Gael Valero that I don't think he's too worried. I think Peter Zuba just has his eyes forward this lap, knows, okay, it is now or never if I want to get up onto that podium position. So Toby Soriano might have to look out for him. Yep, definitely Jackson Sanchez, Bruno Di Carmo. You can see those guys getting bumper to bumper. Looks like they may be giving him a little bit of a push right there. So absolutely the teammates working together now to try and just inch away slightly from Toby Soriano. So right here, definitely great teammate work out here. I think the Delinta Esports drivers, probably some of the best teamwork that we've seen in any of the seasons of AMX, doing great job working together whenever they have to, conceding spots if they know another driver is a little bit faster, just to be able to get both of them up in the highest positions in the points and on that podium.
Case in point there, that was a bit of bumper drafting, but not too close, because again, it is quite dangerous that these cars being prototypes still, a slight touch will definitely hurt any of the dive planes on the side there, or damage to the front splitter. You wouldn't want that, as a couple of other guys coming to the comment section just really livening up the scene here. So thank you guys as usual for your contributions. This has been a really boilerplate race, shall we say, but a tense one nonetheless to finish off the day.
So here we go, folks. So as the lap is coming down, winding down, we are almost through our final heat number 2 of the day. We have Jackson Asenge in first, Bruno Di Carmo second, Toby Soriano in third. And with those two, they are slowly making that gap a little bit bigger. So we'll have to see Peter Zuba right now. This is where it's going to look like the battle will ensue between Toby Soriano and Peter Zuba, the two Delinta Esports drivers. Now we are through the final turns, and oh no, a pit maneuver right there. So Peter Zuba still looking like he's trying to concede, waiting, trying to spin him back around, but he says, okay, I have to go before everyone gets here. So unfortunately, Toby Soriano getting spun out on the final turn, and now what was a podium position looking like he had it in the bag, unfortunately dropped him all the way down. Like I said, we've seen Peter Zuba looking like he was waiting for Soriano to just spin right back around. He wanted to be a good sport about it, but then he's seen the drivers behind him coming for it, and he said, I need to get out of here. I need to go. So a heartbreaking ending right there for heat number 2.
Yeah, but for Soriano, that would definitely not be something he wanted. And someone did say, is anyone making a move? Well, there you go. There's your answer. Someone did make a move, but for the Brazilians today, it's Jackson Rosende do Brazil up in front with a commanding victory thanks to his teammate Bruno Di Carmo working together so well. There you go, your thank you session winner by just 0.3 of a second. Jackson Rosende and Bruno Di Carmo for the Tony Kanaan team, the Linte up in front. Peter Zuba with a rather controversial T3 in front of Ariel, Kuhavi, Dean Soriano. Will be very miffed by that one. Pedro Mora, Ralph Vintes, and Diego Villarreal. And Diego managed to get it up there in the top 10 despite his close shaves before. So that will definitely be a morale booster for him coming into the closing stages of the season. But what a race.
Man, that was, just like we said, absolutely insane. We've seen Chad out there saying, all right, these guys, they're just lining up, going down in the train one after another, waiting for something to happen. And there it did. Unfortunately, like we've seen, we wanted a battle close, but it's always unfortunate whenever someone is going to be on the podium just to only get spun out right at the last moment. So we've seen that all day long too. Earlier on, we've seen the heartbreak with Simone Seminara, unfortunately going off track. He was doing so well all the way to the last lap. And here in heat number 2, we had a last lap incident as well. So unfortunately, that has been the theme for the day. But Amir, just a quick recap on that. I mean, you know, if you're put in that position, like we've seen Peter Zuba, he just was waiting to give it back, but at what point, you know, you just have to go. So I'd say for you, what are you hoping that we see from these drivers, you know, going into this? I know we're going to head into the interview very soon. We'll have to see what those drivers say, but I guess, you know, we kind of have our perspective. What was your perspective on that? It all happened so fast on that incident there.
Yeah, again, I wouldn't be even put into that situation to begin with, because I wouldn't want to hit anybody, especially the final corner, to cause a spin that will really hurt them. As we can see, we have a replay of the incident itself. We can talk right through it. You can see that's Zuba on the outside, and then Soriano, who was on the inside. Then it will become the outside afterwards. Or you can see that, yeah, it was already there to begin with, but it's a tough one, isn't it? Because it looks as though Soriano was actually turning in slightly into Zuba by virtue of the fact that he touched the curb. So it was just a natural incident. Unfortunately, it was detrimental to Soriano overall. So,
yeah, that one right there. I mean, it was too close to call. It looked like it might have possibly just been a racing incident. Like you said, one driver kind of going a little bit wide from the inside, the other one kind of turning in and just, you know, get put into the pit maneuver. So we'll have to see. I think we might have to hear from Peter Zuba himself to kind of see what happened from his point of view, though, Amir.
Yep, certainly. That would be a very interesting one. Wouldn't want to get Soriano on board, because that he might be a little bit miffed by the maneuver. But we'll get into the interview now. We'll get his thoughts. So then, we have our first interviewee for the AMX 5 race that we just had recently with Driver 61 coach Peter Zuba. So,
hello guys.
It's unfortunate that we come into the circumstance, because we're gonna go to that question of what happened in that final corner at last lap, because it looked as though Tobias, his car just aimed completely sideways, and it looked like a very small touch.
Yeah, I just chatted with Toby, and he said it was on him. I kind of feel like it was 50-50, bit of a racing incident. We kind of got glued together, so I tried to open the wheel a bit, give him a bit more space to get out of the situation, but it was impossible at that moment. So unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Indeed. And speaking of like how the cookie crumbles today, it looks as though that the LMP3s may not have been into your favor, because qualifying and in the first heat, it seems as though you were struggling a bit, but you got a breakthrough in that second heat.
Yeah, absolutely. My race pace was good. Even in heat 1, I was doing fastest lap quite a few times. With quali, I always just messed up when I had good slipstream, so I always off-tracked or made a silly, dumb mistake. And when I had clean air, of course, you can't really improve, because the slipstream is giving you 2 to 3 tenths easily, and that's impossible to break through on driving itself.
Certainly. And speaking of slipstream, because you were actually behind the two Brazilians towards the closing stages, you reckon that if you had a clean air, would you have gotten the win at that point?
Tough to tell. Toby was defending quite well, but he got the slipstream of the Brazilians, so it was really difficult to make a move. You had to go for a desperate send, almost. So I left it for the final lap, just in case I would get damage. If I could clear Toby, I think I would have been able to get back behind the Brazilians, but they were playing together. It would have been impossible to overtake them.
Certainly, it's almost like a DRS train, wasn't it? But yeah, congratulations on the podium, even if it was coming in a little bit of unfortunate circumstances. But luckily, good to hear that you guys cleared the air on that one, because it was kind of like an unfortunate thing, because it looked quite weird the way he jumped over. But once again, congratulations, and we'll see you for future AMX races.
Thank you, guys. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
So there we got to hear it from the man himself. So like you said, from our point of view in the replay, it was really hard to tell, you know, a bit of a racing incident, unfortunately. Both of those drivers just pushing it very hard, which, like we said, you love to see when the drivers are going that hard, but unfortunately, you don't love it whenever it ends like that. So the guys, you know, great sportsmanship all the way around, especially whenever we get to hear from the drivers. They're already talking about it after the race. So definitely great from them. So we'll have to see now, though, where that puts things with our official results for the race. Also, there's going to be anything that is said with some of these incidents going on from our officials. So here we go, folks. These are the results from our race number 2 of the day, race 36 of the season, AMX 5. In that top spot, we have Gustavo Ariel, followed by second place, Jackson Asenje, and in third, Toby Soriano. So coming in fourth, Bruno De Carmo, fifth, Aaron Vasquez, sixth, Peter Zuba. As well, we have a three-way tie there for sixth place between Peter Zuba, Ralph Benitez, and Martin Chico. Coming in ninth place, Pedro Dean, and 10th, Gael Valero. So definitely very, very good for Jackson Asenje and Bruno De Carmo, being that much over Gael Valero, able to get up just a little bit, make the championship a little more interesting. And although Toby Soriano had that unfortunate heat number 2, he still managed to come away in third place overall. So really good from these drivers. Amir, I can't believe it. We only have about 3 weeks left in the season. The time has flown. Do you have any predictions? I mean, Gael Valero has been in that top spot for the overall championship points, but what do you think we can expect these next few weeks now that the race is getting a lot tighter?
I would say that Jackson might just have to start picking up ACC again, because yes, we did see him in a couple of ACC races, but if he really wants to mount a serious challenge to overhaul Gael, he'll really have to start doing the ACC races and see how he can gauge himself with Gael in that one.
Definitely. But for all of the folks out there, make sure you tune in next weekend. I know it's going to be a good one next Saturday. We're going to be bringing back some of the Super Formula Lights, I believe, as well as the Porsche Cup cars. We're going to be heading over to Suzuka. We're heading over to Daytona. So definitely, I know every time we are at those tracks, it is top-notch racing. So make sure everyone tune in next week, and we will be back here live on Twitch and YouTube starting at 5:50 p.m. GMT, as well as if you want to get in on these last few races of the season, head over to amxrace.com. We'd love to see you out there. Next weekend also back is AMX 20 as well as AMX 0, so never a better time to get involved in AMX. But signing off for the day, I am Kevin along with Amir, and from all of us out here at AMX, we will see you next time.
Thank you.